to start. Hey everyone, I'm about to put a link for people to join if they want. What is it, Wednesday afternoon? Hey Tyra. Some of us really be giving unemployed vibes. Okay. Hey everyone. Yes, Givenchy, let's get you through the last few minutes. Oh my gosh, don't mind my clothes drying. This is a wonderful part of having a canopy bed because you can dry your clothes. I do have a clothes drying rack though. Now you in the middle of a Teams meeting. Clearly you can multitask because I would completely zone out of that. I miss being on company time. I had a job last year for literally like 4 weeks before I was ghosted by my boss. Well, I'm doing research right now. So I'm sitting here doing research with y'all. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm on the clock. So I needed help thinking of all the socialites, Black socialites mainly, that we have. Ooh, I don't know. I never heard people being eligible for unemployment if they quit. I tried to get food stamps last year and they said I made too much. But the W-2 I sent them was from my last job, and the W-2 had like $34,000 I made in a year. That's too much for food stamps? Making $34,000 in a year is too much for food stamps. The boss ghosted me because I asked for a raise. The job was $15 an hour. She was trying to make me a lead. So I was like, pay me $17. And I said that to her in person. I was like, when I met her in person, I was like, oh, I would like to get paid $17 an hour if I'm going to be a lead. And then she was like, okay, sure, I can talk to whoever about it, blah, blah. So I kept asking her for more information about it because she kept like putting me on the schedule and wanting me to train people and basically working me more than I should have been working. So then I told her, I was like, hey, like, I'm not comfortable coming back in until you confirm I'm going to be getting a raise. And then she tried to act like she had no idea what I was talking about. And I was like, you know what I'm talking about. And then I never heard from her again. Yeah, so this is spoiler. I'm starting to spoil my stuff. I have bought this for the video that I'm gonna do eventually. And I have one of those influencer lights. So that's keeping me lit up right now. Okay, yeah, I should be writing this down. I already have Lori Harvey. I forgot to put Jordan. When I had a job that that gave me like a work laptop, it was a Google Chrome. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm bougie, but I could not get down with that. I'll put Jada. I'm not going to put Des because we want Des to be a socialite, but she insists on making music. We want Justine to be a socialite, but she insists on making music. So Marseille is actually an actress, but I could put her because before I could put her as an example, but not as a socialite for something else. Yeah, I mean, the job was cute though. It was like a front desk job. It was like a front desk job. Why is it? There we go. It was a front desk job, so I was able to, just sit at a desk, be on a computer, read books. So I'm like, this is cool with me. And yeah, Kelly Price. Isn't Kelly Price a singer? I know her songs. Samaria. Oh yeah. I'm mainly putting the girls who are entrepreneurs, but their businesses don't actually make money to keep up their lifestyle. It's their parents or boyfriends. Oh, Tyra, you just sent me a message. I was like, what is that? Hey, Jania. Winnie Harlow. I mean, Winnie Harlow could kind of be a socialite. I feel like her friends would more so be socialites because she's a model. I don't know. Models, I don't know. I kind of don't always consider them socialites because some of them are actually employed. I feel like socialites are unemployed, like Lori Harvey, and have this entrepreneurship front because rich people, they, in order to make them like make themselves not feel bad about being rich, they like to start a business. Sweetie, we want Sweetie to be a socialite. Aristocracy. Raven Tracy. Jackie. I don't know who that is. Oanus. Oh, that's Jackie Kennedy. I was like, who? Now, who said Northwest? Okay, now it's giving A list socialite, B list socialite, C list socialite, D list socialite. Because all these people have different rankings. Oh, you talking about India Love as a socialite? Yeah, Ryan Destiny wouldn't be a socialite to me. I think so. First of all, I feel like with socialites, which is why Lori Harvey is really the main socialite, is because she's connected to a large amount of wealth as compared to a lot of the people we named are not compared to money like that. They had to make their money. Like they had to start making their money. And then Lori Harvey's mother has a history of like maneuvering dating for status. So I feel like a lot of the girls, Jordan Woods, I feel like she can kind of count, but I'm unsure about her mom. Like her mom had more of like her mom legit had like it seemed to be like a marriage with someone who was a producer on a TV show. I mean, I guess that's high status. I guess, but I definitely consider Jordan Woods a socialite. Because I'm also comparing it to like Paris Hilton, because Paris Hilton, that whole Hilton dynasty, and like her mom being very strategic. Well, her mom's mom being very strategic about making sure all of her daughters married rich. That's kind of more of what I want to talk about. But I do agree that some of the people we mentioned are kind of considered socialites. Because I also think like in it's like a subculture. I think there's like a bigger culture of socialites, and then there's a subculture, and there's a lot of people in the subculture, but then there are also the people that are really in that kept kind of life. Exactly. Paris is set. I believe Lori is set. And it's also access to information, meaning we have way more information on like Lori Harvey's parents than we do Jordan Wood's parents. But I definitely think Jordan Woods is definitely going down an early basketball wife track. And it's kind of weird because it's like, girl, you be dressing like you're 40 years old on Real Housewives with your boyfriend. Like, y'all are in your 20s. Like, let's relax. Raven Tracy to me, she's definitely like a subculture socialite. But unless I don't know much about where the hell she even came from. Do we know Raven Tracy's family? Like, okay, EJ Magic Johnson's child, that counts. That definitely counts to me. And I also think there probably are some like celebrity kids or rich kids that just don't opt, that we don't know too much about their family and then don't play on it too well. Because when you think of like Paris Hilton, she dived into all of this. Like Nicole Richie, they dived into all of this, as to where now there are a lot of socialites that stay hidden. I was watching some other YouTubers video. I think their channel is called like Deep Dive something. And they were doing a video on the daughter of whoever created Johnson and Johnson. So she was kind of like a socialite. I think she died. Um, but she was like a reject socialite. Like, I think she's dead, so I'm not trying to be rude or anything. Reject meaning like she tried, but it just ended very, very bad for her. And this was someone who came from like a very wealthy family. I think Sophia Richie could count. And the only reason why I probably don't even think about her much is because I think she's in the white sphere of things. Because and I kind of also wish Lori Harvey didn't start a business because I'm tired of these businesses. Like I want socialites to be like really borderline unemployed because a lot of them turn into like influencers and brand ambassadors anyway. Oh, I definitely think Ming Lee definitely is like kind of like a socialite. And it's weird because it's so weird because I don't know. Like her sister, all her sister is doing is really going to school. I'm surprised they're not more popular. Let me see, because they both come up on my timeline every now and then. Let me see. You know what? It's the dating factor. Because if Ming Lee and Aoki Lee like dated around more and were spotted at more parties and had allegations for like doing crack or something, they would 100% be socialites. Like I think they are, but like more notable. Because that's the thing. I feel like the dating aspect is really, really big to be a socialite. You need to be dating. Not saying I want to force them to do so, but who's Travis? Who? Yeah, honestly, Regine could be a socialite. Yeah, because maybe there's a distinction between fame and socialite. I don't know. Well, not crack, but cocaine or like some type of drug, like either drinking a lot or like ecstasy. They have to do some type of drug. That's in all the headlines. Or it's not in the headlines, but it gets like rumored. Who is Ray? I didn't really look into it. Zaya could definitely become a socialite. I think Zendaya is considered one. The only reason why I count actresses a little bit is because before rich kids were actresses. Did this thing just die? Okay. But are like nepotism babies and socialites really different? I mean, you kind of have to be a nepotism baby to be a socialite, I feel. Because that's the thing. I feel like there's a lot of, but okay, so it could be like you have, so in order to be, oh my goodness, is it dying? I barely use this. So I think this is dying. Let me see if I can charge it while I'm here. Madonna's daughter. I honestly feel like I'm gonna have to do something where I see how much some of these people are talked about, because if you're not being talked about that much, like, I'm sorry. I think you have to be like in the press. Oop, hopefully that stays on. Angela Simmons. Yeah, yeah, she was definitely, or her and her sister. You know what? Because I feel like a point in here is that these socialites have to play into it in order to stay relevant to be considered a socialite. I feel like my wig. I gotta move it over. And a lot of them don't continue to play into it. It's too much to constantly be in the media eye like that. You know what? So this is interesting because when we're talking about someone like Angela Simmons and even her sister Vanessa Simmons, how long were they like really in the mainstream or black mainstream eye before they weren't anymore? Because um how long is Lori Harvey gonna stay in the public discourse? Because I really feel like she has a lot of longevity ahead of her. Because I also feel like a part of some people seeing someone as a socialite is just simply if they post photos and have a high follower account. And there has to be some like impact. So it's kind of like with some of these people we're mentioning, how much impact do they have? How much do people reference them? How much are people begging for their beauty secrets? How much, you know? So it's like some of the people we mentioned, yeah, they have cute pictures and they're conventionally attractive, but nobody's like, "What are you wearing?" No one's like, "Please tell me more about your dating life. Please tell me more about your beauty secrets." You know? I don't think Black China is necessarily a socialite because she came up on her own. Like she didn't come from money. And then she started dating Tyga, but she was already like a popular video vixen kind of thing. So I feel like Black China is just famous. Like Tokyo Tony is on TikTok. I was watching Tokyo Tony on live the other day, sounding incoherent. Incoherent, okay? I think anybody who rose to fame on their own without the nepotism is not a socialite. But they can be. They can be if we consider them in that definition, but I'm not, for the sake of what I'm planning to do for a video. I think it's a Venn diagram. Like you have influencers, you have socialites, and then there's clearly some things in the middle. Yeah. Zoe Kravitz can kind of count. I think she can count because she definitely has the nepotism. I would not consider Normani a socialite. I don't consider Justine Skye a socialite. I don't consider anybody who has a music career a socialite who also does not come from rich parents. So I don't consider Saweetie a socialite. Now, if all of them quit music, then maybe we could have another conversation. I haven't defined it because I'm not going to define it right now because we're just brainstorming. Yeah, I think Kim Kardashian is one of the first influencers, but Paris Hilton was a socialite. And then Kim K was her friend. Portia. Yeah, I definitely think Portia could be one. Definitely Portia could be one in the different types of subcultures. Cuz I definitely feel like Portia brings up the fact that there is this socialite status among that church world. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like that church world, but that also overlaps with like Black history. So like if Martin Luther King's kids wanted to like be prominent within their little circles, I definitely think that's a type of socialite. I think YouTubers don't count, but I was watching a video that considered Emma Chamberlain a socialite. And I don't necessarily think she is, but if you look at Well, I don't think she is. I don't think she is, but yeah, like Southern Black socialites. Diddy's kids. Yeah, men socialites. Can men be socialites or is it just something women do? Because Diddy's kids could all be socialites. Though I think them kids gonna have to work when Diddy is dead and gone because ain't no way his money is stretching that far. Let me add amethyst. Oh wait, hold on. Hey, can you hear me, amethyst? You're on mute. Oh, you're on mute. Okay, let me know when to add you back when you could do it. I think men should be considered to be socialites. Okay, so all the boys, not all of them. No, I hate autocorrect on phones. Not Diddy's kids are IG baddies. For this thing won't stay up. Luca Shabbat, yeah. He is a male socialite. I think if the only reason why, even though Luca Shabbat and like Keith Powers can be kind of similar, I don't consider Keith Powers because nobody cares about like his personality. Like it's not like people are dying to interview Keith Powers. Like he's just attractive. And I don't think he even comes from a family with wealth. I think some of y'all are new, so we're talking about the same people over and over again in the chat. Yeah, I would say Sweetie is like a mini Nepo baby. I'm not gonna sit here and be like nepotism got Sweetie her career because it's not even like talent did. Um, so I think Sweetie is more of like, yeah, she had a little bit of connections, but no immediate family connections. And yeah, her mom is a video vixen, but the most pull that can get her mom is a spot on Love and Hip Hop. Because if you've seen Crystal's last video, I did not realize that so many people on Love and Hip Hop or reality TV shows can be traced back to being video vixens or being in videos. Um, because she still has the same cadence and awkward raps as she did when she was rapping in her car. Like it has not even progressed. But and I think Luca Shabbat actually comes from a little bit of money, not a lot, but like more than like the rest of us. Like I think his parents were absolutely comfortable and there was some nepotism involved. Like I think he was living in Paris at one point. Like his parents have money. I don't think they're wealthy, but they are rich, I think. Why is my stomach kind of feeling like I ate the wrong thing? Yes, I think Luca is actually the perfect guy because he's been around celebrities for a while. He may be wealthy then. He may be wealthy. And then he dated Courtney Kardashian. Oh yeah, he's perfect. He's perfect. Luca the male Lori Harvey? Who is the male Lori Harvey? Worked at V Files. I think he was like, oh, he was hanging out there and then they offered him a job or something. Cause you know how like these socialites love to act like they had a little job. Like, come on. They had to prove to themselves that they didn't need their parents' money when they in fact did. Not Lala Anthony. Lala is she was poor and she worked her way up. Pete Davidson, I think he's the male Lori in terms of dating, but he used to be poor. His parents didn't come from money. And he doesn't give a bougie aesthetic at all. And he don't be setting trends. I like okay, can someone confirm or deny? But literally after Lori Harvey was like, "Oh, I do Pilates." I have not stopped seeing Pilates everywhere. Like people were not really checking for Pilates and then there was this whole Pilates debate. Now it's like, "Oh, make Pilates accessible, find YouTube videos. You don't need that machine to do Pilates." Why is everybody trying to do Pilates now? Not Pete gives gutter. I don't know why Pilates is so it's like a new class kind of signifier kind of thing. But then people are trying to act like, oh, you can do it if you don't have the money. And it's just like, can we keep it exclusive? I don't need you acting like I need to be doing Pilates. Exactly. Can y'all just do yoga? Like a lot of y'all don't be needing to do Pilates. You could do yoga, you can go for a hike. Girl, whatever happened to just a treadmill? Going for a run. Um, what the hell? Someone just said something. And I gotta scroll back up and find it. Oh yeah, so that's I think in this video that I do, I have to talk about soft life. Is anybody Nigerian? If you're Nigerian in the chat, explain how soft life was used in Nigeria before it came to the United States and has been annoying us. Zoe Saldana. Y'all are just mentioning a conventionally attractive people. I have no icon. I have no idea what that recommendation is. Is that something Black people would know? Because I've never heard of that. Just a disclaimer. Yes, I am a socialist channel, but I do not be talking about that stuff that the white people be talking about. Wait, has anybody Nigerian? Okay. Soft was used as someone that was good looking. Okay, that's a new definition. I believe there are many definitions to this because every time somebody Nigerian describes soft life, it be giving a bunch of different things. Soft life just means you take it easy. That's the first thing I heard. You don't work, you know everyone, and you do everything. Maverick, what are you talking about? Soft life is more about not doing too much, just easy life, not necessarily material things. So South Africans participated in getting the ball rolling in the soft life term. You're not trying to suffer anymore. Okay, that's like one of the main things that I heard. Yeah, like a lot of people don't like that in the United States, soft life is used for like leisure and luxury, kind of, basically. It said describes the sweet life. It wasn't used to describe a lifestyle, more so a person, like you're looking soft. Yeah, there is a femininity aspect to soft life in the United States. Soft life is looking good and enjoyment. So in South Africa, it's not doing unnecessary emotional labor and just looking after us. Okay. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff going on here. Um, so my thing is the only thing that is difficult about this is that to say something isn't is like exempt from femininity or patriarchy is like how can you prove that? How can you prove that in all of South Africa or all of Nigeria, when these terms are used, they aren't being invoked with femininity or patriarchy. You said the apartheid laws trapped women in harmful relationships as well. So they defined what expectations were set on girls and women. So that was like my first, like, aside from what you just said, when people first started to talk about soft life, it seemed like it was like a rejection of when you would typically do some type of hard labor and you're like, soft life, I am not going to do that today. I'm going to either resist or just not participate in something that I'm going to have to do later that is considered some type of hard labor, whether it's emotionally or physically. That was my first idea of what it was, specifically in Nigeria, or when Nigerians would say it. We moved on from talking about socialites. I've been on live for 40 minutes. I think I th- I feel like, because this is like a very what's you call it, diasporic conversation. I think a lot of people are projecting their assumptions on to what people are saying. Because, like, for example, it seems like the soft life is not necessarily something you strive for. It's just an action at a certain point of time. So, like, I think in the United States, the soft life is something people are striving for, as to where how it's being described in Nigeria and South Africa, it's just, it could be an act of resistance, but very small. A small act of resistance, similarly to when in the United States people like talk about napping and um, just relaxing when you would otherwise try to be productive or overly productive under capitalism. So I think that's where the similarities are. When you're like, oh, should I schedule this other meeting? Should I start this business? And it's like, no, I'm going to take a nap. That's what I think the soft life kind of can kind of be equivalent to. But at the same time, I still need like way more context to not overly simplify it, because I definitely think, like many things, is something with many definitions, and that's fine. But it just gets a lot to juggle all those definitions at the same time. Not quiet quitting. Not quiet quitting. Quiet quitting seems like something liberals like to do, to think they're doing anything in terms of resistance. It's so childish, I feel. I have lights on. Hold on. I feel like quiet quitting is like for weak people. There's an anti-hustle culture that's coming out here. Yeah, because I feel like anti kind of hustle culture is always inevitable when people are just not reaping the benefits from it. Oh, sorry, the chat delayed. Yeah, like that's flow. That's a good kind of breakdown of what we're kind of seeing in the chat. Exactly. Quiet quitting is literally just doing your job. Like, OMG. That is such an embarrassing movement. Yeah, because I think I don't know how to describe it. And if anybody can help me, I think there's this phenomenon where like a lot of words have assumptions. And I talked about it in my identity politics video. You think you read the definition of identity, you think you read the definition of politics, and you just put those definitions together. And it's like, no. When words come together, they can have an entirely different meaning than what they sound like they would mean. Um, So life doesn't always mean lifestyle, but it's like an assumption. Or you can even think soft lifestyle. You probably thought people were saying soft lifestyle to be sure. So it's like all these assumptions that come into words be having us fight for our lives in terms of defining things and then communicating with each other because you never know how people are assuming the words you're saying. And that is the hardest part, I think, that I don't think too hard about because I wouldn't even make YouTube videos if I had to think about all the times that the words that I say, someone might have a different connotation for it that can entirely throw off the meaning of what I'm trying to say. And then you could spend hours, you can make a 30-minute video, but then now that video is 2 hours because you're defining each and every word you use in order to keep people on track to get to the meaning of what you're saying. Okay, I'm just gonna go to the bottom. Okay. Yes, like in the United States, the soft life definitely turned into repackaged misogyny because I think it was mainly being used by people who use the same type of rhetoric that like far right women use. And it's a lot of just gender norm stuff that subjugate women. And I also think too, like, it's perfect. Like at some point, like what soft life has become in the United States, like I don't know why my wig keeps looking crooked. What soft life has become in the United States is now its own solidified definition, meaning I don't think at any point now people are using soft life wrong. It now has its own definition for a group of people. So it's like it's beyond, I think, people using it wrong. It's been co-opted and given its own definition for a certain group of women or a variety groups of women. So soft life isn't different from the luxury black girl aesthetic. It's just a new term that they're using. And I think the only reason why I find any of this important is just because of how it exists and kind of I only find it interesting in terms of like aesthetics, really, because I've talked before about how aesthetics are really big in like keeping people in order for fascism, really. um, but I talk more about that in my delusion video, so I won't rehash it here because I wouldn't even know where to start. And also definitions also play a game of telephone. So it's like once you say something to another person, they change it, and by the time it gets to the last person, it's a whole different thing. And I also think for some reason certain things just spread like wildfire, but in very niche communities, to where people think it's worth talking about before it actually is. But the only reason why I stray away from telling people to just be themselves is because that could bring up a whole existential crisis. Because I don't necessarily think I am myself, but I'm the amalgamation of so many different people. So it's kind of hard to say to be yourself, because I think many of us are just being ourselves, but we can still be categorized. Like so many of us, like that's why some of us love the internet so much, is because you go on the internet and you can find something that you feel like perfectly describes you. Like when I was in college and I started reading about introverts, I was like, oh my God. Like I was like, so many of these things like speak to exactly how I am. But at the same time, there are differences, but you like when you can relate to people, and then you start picking up what other people do around you. Like, for example, one thing that sticks out to me, because I did like this podcast episode with one of my mutuals on social media, and she was talking about how from a very young age, she's Nigerian, but she was raised in like some type of like boarding school type of thing, and everybody at that boarding school was from different cultures. And she remember having to code switch really early on, to where she to this day she's like, what is my own voice? Like, what is my own voice when I'm not code switching at school, when I'm not code switching at home? Like, who am I? So it's kind of like, it's hard. It's really hard. I think there has to be a better phrase for be yourself. It's kind of more like, I don't even know, like it's more so just try not to play into how you think you should be. And more so, you know what? I think it's more so about who are you when you feel the most comfortable. I think that's kind of what it is. Because when I think about me being myself, it's like, who am I when my stomach is doesn't feel tight? Like when I'm not anxious, when I'm calm and I could breathe easily. Like, who am I when I'm like most at peace? And that's who I am. But I can't even assume that all people have that impulsive feeling. Because I remember growing up, I would feel very uncomfortable when I would wear certain clothing or I would act a certain way or I would be around certain people. I would just feel very anxious on making sure I'm playing that role right. And I feel like if you feel anxious about a role you're trying to play, just don't do that. How do you feel when you're the most comfortable? Ooh, I want to read that. Many, many masks, many selves. That sounds like that would be good. Yeah, and I think it's really case by case, because not everybody is also really conscious of what is going on in any given moment. Like I feel like air signs, maybe more of us are more so like conscious of what's going on around us, as to where some people are very much like in the moment, have no idea how to read what is going on around them in order to inform themselves on how they feel. So that's another level to it. Because one thing that I do find interesting are certain people. So for example, I am the way I am because I've learned from other people. I don't feel like I come to many conclusions, or I am able to dodge certain obstacles because of my own judgment. I had to be informed throughout the way. So there are people in history who I feel like have made certain moves that were so authentic that I'm almost in shock they were able to make that decision at that time. I don't have a perfect example right now, because I know that there are a few either things that I've read or movies that I've watched where I was like, "Oh, this person truly is like fascinating," because I wouldn't have been able to move like that if these were the cards given to me. I wouldn't have been able to make a decision to where I was going to be sure about myself. Yeah, I think like people like Nina Simone, Asada Shakur, those are good examples, because in order to be so okay with, because I think, you know what, it's truly tested during backlash. Not, and I don't want to say backlash meaning righteous or warranted backlash, but unjust. Like, you know, like when you are really getting something, some pushback that is just so unjust that you have to be so sure about yourself and like not change, that's really hard. That's really hard. And I also think too, people who do set trends to be so innovative and like really be so sure about what you are putting forward. And the trends don't always have to be fashion, but like you just were so fine with that, you know? And I think I've learned from those people. So now in my life, I am very sure of myself, and I'm able to be confident in anything that I do that I haven't gotten confirmation from other people or in society. I'm like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm sure of it. I've deduced. So people who have done that without having to learn from other people that thing, I think is fascinating. What's that word? Fortitude? Courage in pain or adversity. Yeah, that's a good word. And the only hard part about some of this, that's why I think it's better to name like, I think it was good to name people like Nina Simone or Asada Shakur, and of course there could be more people. But like even with like more mainstream celebrities, you never know who contributed to their persona as to why we see them as so like culturally shifting. That's why I don't want to give certain mainstream celebrities too much credit, because they be having a lot of things contrived for them to be who we think they are. I think code switching is something that is not always conscious, but it's very much still necessary. Like I think there are certain people in their lives where they might feel like it's not, but that might not be the truth. Wait. Oh, it's a trauma response, code switching. I think like I think code switching is one of those things where it's there are different types. There, the only two types of code switching I can think is like, of course, like the professional world kind of code switching, but also like culturally, like at the end of the day, like dang, why am I forgetting her name? It's not Angela. Wasn't she like Cherry? Did her name start with a C on Pose? It's Angela, right? Anyway, there was a round table with black women and racially ambiguous women. And there was a black trans woman who said that she had to code switches in black spaces, you know, in order to survive. Angelica Ross, there we go. So I think that's important too, because many people see code switching as something you do in professional environments, which I don't necessarily think white people could actually use the term code switching the same way I don't think white people can always use imposter syndrome. I feel like these words are for like marginalized groups. So I feel like code switching is very layered, but I also feel like, you know, it could be for survival, but it could also be maybe it is mainly it is for survival because when people code switch at work, it's so you can keep a paycheck, keep a paycheck to survive. And I feel like white people who feel like they code switch at work, I feel like some of them are just like, oh, I'm an introvert. And then when I'm at work, I have to code switch and be an extrovert. No, sweetheart, that's not what it is. And then it will be like white people who like were like middle class all their life and they were just kind of considered poor because they went to a school with wealthy kids, not kids that were middle class. So then they're like, oh, I have imposter syndrome and they get like a really big job. And it's like, girl, what are you talking about right now? Stop eavesdropping. I feel like I feel like code switching is just what you do when you kind of adapt another culture's mannerisms in a space to not face kind of like moderate to severe consequences. Let me see what Google says code switching is because there's some things where I don't trust Google's initial um definition. What? Why did articles just pop up? Oh, I think because I'm on the news tab. Okay, code switching is the practice of alternating between two or more languages or varieties of language in conversation. So some of them think it's like being bilingual. That's what Google thinks it is. Do they even have and I think white people sometimes don't understand code switching because a lot of us do it so well around them that they don't understand that we have fully have had to understand their culture in order to survive. That they don't even know that this is not how we be acting at home. And then there was another thing about code switching. I just forgot. I don't talk white. I'm from California. Um, okay. Hey,
Hey Teanna, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Are you at work like everybody else?
Yes, and it's so funny. I kind of have to do a Gemini moment myself where I just kind of bring it all together.
Hmm.
So, because I know you guys had touched earlier on the whole quiet quitting and like that's kind of weak and people always talk down on it, but
Hmm.
I do connect that to when you were also bringing up code switching. Like,
Hmm.
let's keep it real. Sometimes code switching is a full-time job in and of itself, and
Hmm.
so you've got to quiet quit. And the reason for me I don't consider it weak is because like if you have children or if you know like that's your only source of income, but
Hmm.
you know that they're draining the hell out of you because they're like, we're going to get the most out of you and pay you the least, then I'm like, well, to counter that, I'm going to do the least and take the most that I can, because like they say, you die on the job from being overworked, they're going to repost the position before your obituary is printed.
Hmm.
And so I'm just like, quiet quitting, I think it's good. It's productive if you use it as such. Like, just to stay there in a victim mentality of, oh, I can't do anything better and I'm just going to sulk in this. Yeah, that's not the best. But if you're like, look, I'm going to show up, do this. You know, you're not getting rid of me because you're just because no one wants to be here.
Hmm.
I'm going to do my part. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to give my good energy to what really matters to me.
Yeah. Because I feel like a part of that is just kind of what you said, realizing like, why am I going to overwork myself when I'm not going to get more money for doing so? And,
Exactly.
but I feel like the quiet quitting was kind of manufactured by publications. Because similar to like with this alleged rise in theft, when
Hmm.
more articles are reporting, oh, more people are stealing, when that's actually not the case. There are other issues at hand then, and the amount of stealing is not that high at these stores. It's just reported on more. So I'm curious as to like how this like quiet quitting looks for like marginalized groups compared to like white people who probably are making over 60,000 at their job and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to quiet quit because capitalism." And that's it. That's all they talk about. That's all they do. As opposed where there are people at actual jobs who are putting in way more effort thinking, oh, they'll probably get paid more down the line. They'll probably get more respect down the line or whatever. And coming to the realization that's not going to happen. I'm just going to do, or, and also combating what you've been told, owing as a person of a marginalized group, always having to be
Hmm.
twice as better, realizing,
Exactly.
no, all I have to do is do my job. And to me, that has been something that I've been thinking about more in my recent years as well. But I feel like once this term started popping up, I think other people took to it for their own kind of like needs, like their own kind of motivation, which can be important for some people.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing, because I mean, you're right. It's definitely different. Like, I mean, just to put it out there, for us, for Black folks like us, it's
Mhm.
different. Like, a quiet quitting is for us to be on a more thing, because it's different. No matter what anyone says, it's just different for us in the workforce, because for one, it was not built for us to succeed and thrive. And for the other people that take it for their whatever, that's them. But what I love about us is how we can take things and remix it and make it work for us. So I mean, Billy Joe and Bob, they can quiet quit and, stream live about it and then go get on a van and get a trust fund and do that whole thing. And that's cool. You go do that, because I ain't got nothing to do with you as soon as you walk up out that door. But me, my quiet quitting is just knowing that those who came before me, they worked their asses to the bone so that I didn't have to, for me to have the realization. Because it's like, as a kid growing up, when your parents are coming in, like you're excited to see them from being at school all day, and they're like, "Ugh, it's been a long day. You need to recognize that." But they're like, "But what do you want me to do?" Because it's like I got to go up in here and be jolly golly with them, and then it's like, and you know how it is, so you can understand what I'm giving, and it's like, but yeah, we get it, but it doesn't mean that the children need to receive that. So, but yeah, I just wanted to put my couple of cents in there. I do love your channel. I be watching your stuff. I'm like, look at you just going in on them with class and grace. I'm like, that's the Gemini. I love it.
Yes, people love us for good conversation.
Exactly. And that's why we need to charge double. They'll pay.
Okay, let me
But on that note, let me get back in here and do a little bit of something, like I've been productive all day.
Yes.
Thanks you.
Hey.
Oh, what's really hood? What's really good? What's up, Black people? Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon from Brooklyn.
You already know, New York, Brownsville, East New York side. Whoa. Anyways.
Yeah.
Nah, you just
thoughts on this quitting?
Wait, the quiet quitting. I was just about to say, like, you really hit on the nail on the head. Like, it's just the publication's definition or way of wording what's already ingrained in the Black experience. Like, I feel like quiet quitting is kind of just I don't have time for that. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's just already in us. It's just we don't want to subscribe to things that don't represent who we are and our identity. So it's just like he just said too, like, why am I going to give my all to that? But we've always been doing that. They just now found the words for it. You know what I mean? So it's like,
exactly.
They can define it.
A lot of us come to it, like some of us, when we first get our first jobs, no matter where it is, we're eager. We're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And then you start to realize, oh, let me just show up, do the bare minimum and leave. And that's why it's hard, because I know a lot of us probably like have coworkers where we didn't understand why they were just so like nonchalant.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got to realize, oh, I see why you're so nonchalant.
Like, I'm just coming in for my check, bro, and then I'm dipping. Like, that's it. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that's like driving us to do what we do at the end of the day. And you start realizing what your parents have gone through all their life and why they were miserable some days, because you're just caught up in the same capitalist system that they were in. But it's like you're trying to blaze and find your own way, which is why I feel my mom was having this discussion too. Like, she just feels like us as a generation of younger people, we're able to really just say and stand 10 toes on what we are and who we are. And it's like, now I'm about to budge for nothing. So yeah, you can give me my check in the meantime, but like someone said in the freaking comments, like, quiet quitting is really you giving your bare minimum and then having a new job lined up, just ready to move on to the next, because we're just so forward. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know though. No, go ahead. My fault.
I was going to say the thing that's getting harder, though, is the ability to jump to the next job. Because I feel like it was easier, and then people started to catch on that that's what people were doing.
Absolutely. But like he said, like, as soon as someone dies, that new post is up. You know what I mean? And that's the thing about American culture, if anything, is just the grind is always out there. The dollar is always out there for you. You know what I'm saying? Is figure out your hustle. Figure out that thing that's going to get you to it. Because if you figure that out, you're golden. You know what I mean? That shit will always be coming in abundance. So it's like it slows up in a sense of where, like, it's hard to get a new job, but if you just keep that, it's an abundance mind state for sure. Abundance mind state, because I was just down bad this summer. Get the fuck out. Like, trying to find a job was like, it wasn't happening. But look at God, you know what I'm saying? At that moment where I needed it the most, he's going to appear out of nowhere. So I can't sit here and just be like, oh, it's hard out here for a nigga, because it is, but get to it and it'll come. You know what I mean? Like,
it kind of feels like it's a trade-off, though. Like, I know when people be like, oh, like, it seems like when we're crowdfunding, we're all sharing the same $20. Sometimes I feel like that's how we're all job hunting. Like, one person will be having a bad time here, they quit, then somebody else who was looking for a job comes in, they'll be out soon. And it's kind of like this cycle of like, you hated your job, now I'm at that job, I'm about to be gone to something else. So I feel like we're all passing around jobs, because at some point we should be able to settle at something that we feel like, oh, Teresa's right, and we like the money.
Word, that's a fact. But I also think that mindset is what making everybody want to be an entrepreneur. It's like everybody gotta start your own business, and it's just like, no, some of y'all just need to work. But it's cool.
Exactly. And I think too, for like again, if people really want to start their own business, they need to be in the business of the wholesaling, like making the products. Because at the end of the day, there are going to be a whole bunch of optimistic entrepreneurs that go and
Mhm.
buy 10,000 lip glosses from you and then they can't sell those lip glosses. I want to be the person who you bought the lip glosses from that you can't get rid of. Because I
Word.
already got my money. You might not be able to sell those lip glosses, but I got the money because I made it.
Word.
And you gave me that 10K check up front, and now you got to figure out how to sell those lip glosses for $10 each. I don't want
Word,
to
that
help.
workaround. That's a fact. But that's the grind right there. You know what I'm saying? Going back, it's that weird like chess game you got to play, and it's just knowing like the supply and demand and where it's gonna be and where you're gonna get it from, for sure.
Yeah.
Going back to the code switching thing, like, cause it's kind of weird too. My boss is black, right? But she ain't never watched Boys in the Hood, so that just gives you a fucking sense of who she is as a person, right? So it's just like you sit here and be thinking, oh, it's black talking and white talking, but I don't really think it's that. It's really just perspective more than anything, like just like life and like what you've walked through and like what you've been through. But it's weird. I'm just noticing. It's hard to not call it fate though, because it feels like I'm not presenting my real self, like at
But
all.
yeah, it's because it's professionalism. Because it's like, and that's the thing with other Black people in these professional spaces. Once you walk in, like, even if, like, say you have someone who's very similar to you, but they were already in that professional environment before you, so they were already code switching. So when you come in, you're code switching with that person, though you're
Right.
similar and probably wouldn't talk the same in that environment, but because you're in that environment, you keep up those roles. I think
Mhm.
that's a part of it because there's been like, for example, like even for me, like there will be a lot of spaces that I'm in, and I don't necessarily break character all because I see somebody is black. Like I don't know you. I need to figure out who are you
Right.
before I start being myself. Because now you're telling on me to the manager. You're trying to do something to shade me or one up me when we should have just kept it professional, and I should
Right.
have never showed you who I really was. Um,
But it's like, oh my God, it's so fake. It's so fake. It's crazy, ain't it? That's why you can't trust nobody at work. Like, I just like, whatever you tell me is bullshit. I don't know who the fuck you is, like, at all.
and that's why it's like unfortunate that we have to have so many boundaries because depending on what job you have, you're there a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
imagine being someplace for 8 hours a day and you don't have any type of relationship with anybody. Like that's so boring.
OD. But now it's like, it's even tricky when you do have certain relationships with people, though. Like, you be like, I'm personal with this person,
Yeah.
but then over here, I'm mad professional. And then like, that professional person, like, sees you in real time, switch up your tone, switch up your whole shit. So then they know that, like, they on the outside, and it's just like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just like, this is not how it's going down. Like, uh,
I
it's different.
mean,
It's different.
but that's the thing. So I think one thing that's hard for me sometimes is to realize some people are not code switching. So for example, like I feel like yes, there are going to be black people who are raised in ways that they just don't perform or they're not black the way other people are black, which is fine. So it's kind of like you're expecting them to kind of break character, but that's just who they are and that's just how they talk. And I feel like
Right.
sometimes that's hard for me to understand, but I'm starting to understand it more because again, like you just can't assume. I'm learning more and more you can't assume.
Right, that's a fact. But then it'd be so super weird when you meet those like they kind of professional all the time type people. Like it's just like this is really how you is, and I don't know how to interact with it, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the dangerous ones for sure. Watch out for them. Watch out for them, y'all. Watch out for them. It be them. It be them for real.
Yeah.
For
Oh yeah,
sure.
some people are talking about tokenism. There are some people that love being a token. They love to perform and be in those like environments where they're the only black person or the only like non-white person and they really thrive in that. Has
That's a
so
fact.
has social media killed code switching? No, I think the code switching is not like dead. And I feel like if some of us think it's dead, I feel like it's because we're just not in those spaces where it's still very much alive and well. Like I think social media rushes us to proclaim things are dead when they are still very much alive.
Sorry, say it one more time. I was on my phone. I gotta work at the same time. My fault, y'all.
No, somebody was saying is code switching dead. And I'm like, I don't think really much is dead. Not fun fact, Black history fact I learned. The last school to be desegregated was in 2016. So
2016 desegregated, like segregation, like
yes,
we on this side, y'all on this side.
yes. 2016 in Mississippi. So
I mean, it makes sense where it's at, but still, just so long. But like, damn, that's crazy.
So it's like, I feel like when sometimes we're trying to say that, oh, some things are dead, and it's like we're still in the thick of a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. I just saw a post not too long ago was showing how many places have legalized gay marriage, and it's still not like it's really just us for real. Like all over the world, that shit is not happening. Like it's not going down the way y'all think it is.
Exactly. So I'm like, especially every time like I go on job interviews or I'm like redoing my resume, I just feel so like a robot, and I feel so like the stuff that I have to do to show that I'm worthy of a job makes me just feel so less than.
Word.
And I'm like, once you're comfortable, once you have your job, you're getting your paycheck, and once you have to go through that process again, you realize the code switching, you realize the professionalism you have to do that you thought nobody else was doing. And it's like people are doing these things every day
to thrive and survive, and some of them are doing it so well that it's them now. It's like ingrained in them.
Exactly. And that's the hard part, is having to decipher when somebody is like saying their truth, and you have to think like, I don't really think that's your truth. Like you think so, but I don't think like
you're just so programmed. This is like, nah, that's your script in your nature now. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're just gonna say it to say it. That ain't you. You didn't think about it for sure.
That's what I think the problem is. Book recommendations.
But it can't. I don't think it can die if it was like built on the foundation of that. How can it die? You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of a thing where it thrives on it. You know what I mean? Like it's a part of the function. In order for it to continue, like it has to remain with that element. You know what I mean? Like
and also like, and again, some of us can't take for granted some of the cities that we're in that seem so like, progressive and everything.
Forward. More, that's a fact.
It's only a little bit of cities like for example, I don't think I can remember it off the top of my head. So for example, New York City, I believe, has the most Black people in the country. But in New York City, Black people only make up like 30% of the population.
Thanks.
Then in Detroit, there's the most Black people like concentrated, meaning Black people make up most
the majority.
The majority, but they're not the majority like I just described in New York.
Word.
So with all of that being true is a lot, because once I realized like in the Bronx, if you would have asked me when I was younger, oh, is the Bronx majority Black, I would have told you yes. But the facts say it's not.
Hell no, it's not. It's Spanish as my motherfucker. Hell no.
I've seen like mainly, or my delusion, of course, I was seeing Spanish people all the time, and then that's a whole nother layer, is that nobody really refers to Spanish people as Spanish other than the way we do in New York. But if you would have asked me, I would have thought I'm seeing all these Black people, but in reality, I was just not really seeing all the
non-Black around you. Yeah. Sure.
And so that's one thing too. So a lot of times when people are like, oh, well, in my community is this, my community is that, I'm like, are you sure, or is that what you think you see?
We're going back to this perspective thing. It's just like how you living on your day to day. You know what I mean? But it's definitely a delusion level to it. Absolutely, because we choosing what we want to see for sure, and we're choosing the experience that we want to have on the day to day. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that part, until we're honest about that, I don't think we're getting a lot of honest kind of takes from people.
That's a fact. I don't know. I'm giving y'all my real self, though. You know what I mean? Like, listen, over here on this side, trying to be honest as possible. I promise.
Yeah, and so that's another thing, because, like I've said before, when it comes to the N-word and people who are not Black, being from New York, it's just like I don't know. I don't have much energy for it because what are we supposed to do? Fight every non-black person who's saying the N-word right now? Like, what are we supposed to do? So it's like at some point it becomes, and I never, like, even though it makes sense, a lot of them be like, oh, I grew up like this, I grew up hearing this, you grew up with it being okay. And that's the truth. Like, but I hate saying that, like, publicly, because it's kind of like you're excusing the behavior.
Well,
But
it's not real justification
yeah, it
whatsoever.
just is what it
Like,
is. Like,
it is what it is. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's an is what it is type of scenario where it's just like you just said though, what am I supposed to do after that? You know what I mean? Like it's them and then it's me. Like
yeah, I don't know. And then to an extent too, like if I probably didn't realize, like for example, if I was just in my community the same way I was growing up, to this day I wouldn't even know it's an issue. So, or like the only reason why, like for example, people like Princess Nokia or what's another, Cardi B, the only reason why people like that had to answer to it is because they became celebrities. If Cardi B was still going to Starlets, wherever she was working, she would never be asked about why she says the N-word, and we would not be having any debates on her ethnicity.
Because the environment that she's in, like, who gives a fuck for real? You know what I mean? That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. So that's why I'm like, I don't know. We be arguing about this. Well, I don't want to say we, but people on Twitter keep arguing about this. I'm like, if you pull up someone's tweet and they're like Dominican, Puerto Rican, and they have a tweet that says the N-word from 2013, like that is on brand. Like, I don't know what to say.
I think at that point, like the only real like problem is just with white people. Then you know what I mean? Like, keep it $1.50. It's just like y'all just can't say it. You know what I mean? Because even if a Spanish person can sit here and be like, oh, yo, I came from this environment. This is what I seen. This is what I grew up in. Who's to really fact check that? Because it's like, oh, you're going to have the nigga that's growing up with you all your life just next to you constantly. It's just be like, word, facts. You telling the truth on that, bro. Like, nah, my niggas. No.
Well, someone said California is like that too. So there's this YouTube video I was just watching, and it's this guy, I think he's like Mexican. He's from California. He was interviewing someone, and he said the N-word by an accident, but he didn't say sorry or anything. Like, you could tell he was fighting for his life not to say it, because he says it offline. Because he'd be around a bunch of black people who don't care that he says it, and I know they don't care. So it's kind of like now he's in social media, broadcasted to a bunch of people who are not used to that. So he's trying not to say it, and then it slips out when he gets more comfortable. And I'm just like, it's one of those things where it feels weird. Like, it really feels weird to me to condemn something, especially from the past. I could see if you're a public figure now, and now you know better, okay. But if it's from the past, I don't know what to say.
Well, that's a fact. Nah, I feel you. Absolutely. Charlie Sheen called that woman a nigga during 2.5 Men. That's a fact. So, like, you got it's the current. It's the current. It shows you way more in the present.
Charlie Sheen, like, just very, like, unhinged.
Yeah, he was just wild. Yeah, the cocaine's a hell of a drug. I'm gonna say. But still, like, that was a present moment. It's like you've already accumulated the fame. Now you're just showing your true colors behind closed doors. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different thing. Then it's just like you was kind of growing up in a space and an environment that deluded you and kept you a bit ignorant. And it's just like now you're coming to the light and coming more aware of yourself and more aware of the world around you. And it's just like now we expect you to step up to that plate and start realizing the position that you're in and like who you are as a person.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's weird because you would expect that from the birth. You know what I'm saying? From like as they're growing up, someone to check that and give them that reality. But then you be realizing that's not how it is everywhere. Just like going back to the Mississippi 2016, like type of weirdo
what
shit.
I'm thinking is like, because I'm like, so what is the consequence? I don't know. Like, I don't even have any idea, because it only matters if you become a public figure and you're speaking to more people than your community. Because like, again, it's happening right now. There's so I think of it too, like when I was in high school, there was a bunch of kids who are like non-black, got no curl texture, no melanin, nothing, saying the N-word every day as soon as 8 a.m. Come. And I bet you when they went to college, I'm so curious how it was like for them for something that is just so easy. Like, like it's like there's so many things that we so used to saying, like the same way we all say like. That's how much it's like an automatic thing. going to college and then being around other Black people that are not used to that at all. Like, because that's the thing. Other Black people will check you for it, and that's what you want to. Because at the same time, I also feel like that's unrealistic to be put that on every Black person. Like, oh, because you didn't lash out at that person in that second when they did something disrespectful.
Where like I'm in the wrong. It's
Yeah,
like,
you might not have the energy for it that day. You just don't want to. You're not that type of person.
But also, I don't answer for that person. You know what I'm saying? Like that person's actions and responsibilities don't reflect upon me and who I am as a character and individual. They their own man, my nigga. Like, be over there with that. Like, I don't know. It's too much. It's too much to handle.
Yeah, so I feel like it's a lot. There are people that as soon as they leave their communities, they have to start apologizing for something that they was doing all the time. I mean, I think that's normal though. When I put it like that, there's so many people. Whether it could be for homophobia too. If you from a homophobic family, you probably in your house all day saying that stuff, and then as soon as you leave your house, it's like, okay, no, you can't do that.
Or just like keep it to yourself, if anything, and that's when you like, whatever. Yeah. That's why code switching was invented. That's why everyone's presenting these false narratives of themselves, these false senses of themselves. Like, for sure, my nigga. It's really bad, though, because we're not supposed to be like that with one another at all.
Because that's the thing, too. I think my other issue with, tweets of past tweets of someone saying the N-word, why did we need the tweets? Like, we could just assume that was happening. The same way, like, similar with, like, fat phobia. We could all assume that many of us have witnessed or played a part in any type of fat joke growing up. Like, that was so normalized. So it's like to be like, oh, well, I didn't see a tweet of you saying fat people are blank. That doesn't mean I didn't do it. Like, it was happening. These things happened off social media. So when people be acting like, similar to with the blackface, like, oh, we've seen a politician do blackface. Do we really need that picture? Everybody was doing blackface at that time. Do we need a picture, or should we just assume that some people was doing that?
Well, then but I really just think at that point it's really not about the action. It's really more just about the condemnation. Like, they just want to condemn that person for it. And it's just like, I finally have something that's worthy of doing that. So it's just like, now let's go full force onto it. Because they always say that, like, people build you up to break you down. But I think there's more people just waiting to tear you down, which is why they stay silent. And they're just ready to latch on to the negative as soon as it arrives. Like, there's probably Will Smith haters all around the world. Now that this Oscar slap happened, they feel like, yeah, not everyone's with me. Like, fuck that nigga. You know what I mean? Like, it's shit like that weird thing in humans, that weird thing in people that I don't even know, like that human nature shit. That's just like, it's different. For sure.
Yeah, I definitely.
Wait, Ty Nichols' old tweets. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. What Ty Nichols said? Someone said about Ty Nichols' old tweets. What he said?
I don't even know who that is.
You know what Ty Nichols is? He was the recent young black man that was murdered by the police.
I forgot because I've been muting all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I've been muting. What he has his old tweets were nasty.
I mean, nobody's perfect. I mean, you deserve to die.
The other guys, there was this one man who was shot in his backyard. Trigger warning for anybody. I think his name started with a J, and then he had like tweets saying, "Oh, black women are undesirable" or something. So that's the thing. A lot of these people are gonna have these tweets, and I feel like it just. I'm more so getting to the point where I don't excuse it at all, but I no longer think like past information is worthy of bringing up. For some people, I feel like we have to just attack the issue as a whole rather than using certain people as a reason to condemn that behavior, because so many people have done it.
Right. But I think, yeah, absolutely. And I think people know that too, though. I think people know that it's about us like having to tackle the larger issue, but it's way easier to pin responsibility on one individual. You know what I mean? Like, for the time being, especially, and that's really what it'd be, like the time being too. You know what I mean? It's like a supplement, because they don't really want to fix the larger issue. So it's just like, why not vilify this person and make it seem as if they was the one that made this issue a thing in the first place? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hope I'm eloquently putting that well, because I could be fucking that up.
Copy and paste so we could see it, but maybe we don't even need to see it because it's clear what it was. Hey, Genesis.
Hi. Yeah, like I just wanted to add that I totally agree. For me, what I'm thinking is that it's because the system benefits off of docility and off of people being, ignorant and uneducated on certain issues and all this stuff. And it's more that as a problem. So like when you're going through and you're looking at, because I do still think it's a problem that, we have non-Black people saying the N-word, disrespecting Black people, seeing Black people in a way reminiscent to slavery in areas that aren't as, as impactful on like culture. So like, in school and all these other things, like just, where it's not, doesn't have such an impact, but it's still harmful. And I think that's only because, it functions off of, just people not, how do I say this? Sorry, I'm blanking a little bit.
No,
but
I feel like you are saying like what you're saying clear, meaning like well, maybe could this be what you're saying? The fact that it just goes to show how normalized
yes.
This certain level of anti-Blackness is, to the point where it has gotten out of control, to where Black people, again, in many ways, this could be this speaks to like Black American culture as a whole, that it's not solely for Black people, it's for any and everybody who wants it, and in that makes that anti-Black, that like people do not respect the boundaries of our culture.
Yeah, and it feels like it's like a problem, like it only gets called out when it gets brought to the forefront, when someone with power, privilege, and money is doing it. But then nobody wants to question, how many people, how many systems and people and companies profit off of people going day to day, having these biased takes about other people, having this ignorant thoughts about other people and discriminatory thoughts about other people to keep their business, to keep their system, their organization running.
Yeah, because so that is a part of my issue with when we're like, okay, we have this proof, because I think, somebody was saying in the chat like, oh, being able to show that somebody had like the N-word in their tweets or something colorist in their tweets shows that this thing was relevant. We know it's relevant. Why are we still in 2023 trying to prove to people that this is how people were talking in 2015? We know it. Why are we still having to prove it?
And they still that way now.
Yeah, so let's like move on to addressing, to now we admit it's an issue, and address it, because now getting this random person to apologize for their tweets is gonna not really do much. Yes, they should apologize, being like, in the past, anti-Blackness was so normalized, I had no idea, or maybe I did. So that's the thing. Sometimes people do be knowing, meaning like, oh, they know how to use the N-word in ways where it's not as harmful, but if they needed to use it in a harmful way, they know how to do it.
I think it's because so many people want to, especially society, want to focus on personal responsibility over institutional responsibility. They want to pin most, if not all, of the blame on personal responsibility, and they don't want to look at how things play into a bigger, how things are a consequence of a bigger factor. They don't want to do that. They just want to pin it on, well, especially the system, because it's in its benefit to, keep itself going, to pin it on one person and not everyone. I mean, and not everyone, but, the institution.
Or just not acknowledge the actual problem. That's a fact.
And, and what you're saying is the reason why a lot of us who don't want to do the personal responsibility thing, it looks weird. It sounds weird because it almost seems like we're cutting somebody slack. And it's like, it's not necessarily cutting someone slack. It's just focusing on the bigger. You trying to derail me by getting
which is way more exhausting. Fact.
It's like people are trying to constantly derail you, and it's like, no, I understand, because now we all gonna have to apologize. If all of us had a camera attached to our chest and we could watch all the footage of our life, there's gonna be multiple things we need to apologize for.
That's a big fact. Okay.
like respect politics. It's all this stuff like people are going to do morally divisive things, and that's something about accepting life, that people are going to do morally divisive things. Now it's about how you combat those morally divisive things. You can't, because if how you combat them can either contribute to it or it could reduce it. And a lot of the ways that I see our society, especially our criminal justice system, combat these things is just by reproducing it in a different, instead of actually trying to compassionately understand why this is a problem and how we can get it to stop being as big of a problem.
Yeah. Because I think right now we're in a bubble. Yeah. Where the only people who get held accountable for their anti-Blackness are just public figures. And I'm like, it takes the attention off everyday people who are still doing these things.
To keep it alive in the first place. That's a fact.
Yeah, I'm like, not everyone has the same social media we have, especially as to why when some people have to keep apologizing because, like, you know, say if I did something that people were calling out 5 months ago, I apologize for it. And then there are always going to be new people like, what happened? What? And it's constantly like, okay. And then, I mean, I do think people should apologize or like remind people why or whatever. I think that's like something that a lot of us talk about is like continuing to do it. But then it's only that one person who's doing it because they're a public figure, not because they're actually, well, they could actually be sorry. But nobody else who have done or said something similar has to constantly apologize.
Or if apologize at all, really.
Yeah. Yeah, because some of their apologies do not be giving.
Not at all. Word. People don't be feeling sorry for that shit. Because you know that's just ingrained in who they are as a person. Forgot what NBA player just got called out for some homophobic shit. Was it Anthony Edwards? Word. He just said was like, that shit's gay. And you just know that's like a part of his vocabulary where he just talking with his niggas and shit, like everyday shit. But it's the fact that he got called out and it's just like, oh, now I got to give this fake ass apology and be like, hey, I'm sorry. But it's like, you know that nigga not sorry. And he probably said some other shit was gay later on that day. Like,
like exactly. And the issue isn't him. It's more so this has been in the work for years, trying to get people to stop saying, oh, that's so gay or pause or whatever. That's been in the work for years. Commercials. Y'all remember the Hillary Duff?
Yeah.
No.
I do.
You remember it? You gotta see it. It's literally like Hillary Duff. Like someone says, "Oh, that's so gay," and she's like, "Stop! Don't do that." So, this has been in the works for years. So it takes a long time to get things out of people's systems. Right. Oh, people are mentioning Tariq. Yeah, Tariq. I had did something. I did like a voice thingy on Patreon talking a little bit about Tariq because I think it's a both situation. Tariq had a point I agreed with, but also had points that I did not agree with. The point I agreed with on Tariq was the one we were kind of talking about here as to I don't think it's fair for him to constantly act like his apology is supposed to be combating colorism. But I feel like he is not also taking colorism that serious either in what he was saying. But yeah, I feel like being just overtly negative to Tariq is not going to have a reaction effect to stop colorism within this nation or within a state, and definitely not worldwide.
When we get to split these comments. Sorry, so who's Tariq Ali and what did he say about colorism? Look at me out the loop. I'm big out the loop.
He is a YouTuber. He's been making YouTube videos for a while. I've seen his stuff mainly because I've seen his stuff because he was doing like college specific stuff, but always doing some sort of commentary. And then he's gotten into more like Instagram stuff and TikTok. But he had like colorist tweets and it was like sexual assault stuff. He was like, oh, like it was crazy. But he had said something like just really bad about dark-skinned women. I can't really remember. It was bad to where when I saw it, my jaw dropped. I was like, whoa, this wasn't your typical like, oh, dark-skinned people are not attractive or whatever. It was like, oh my God, kind of
real hatred.
Yeah, it was nasty. Mm-hmm. I think it came out in 2020. These are like it was brought up already, and allegedly he apologized. I'm not sure. And then it came up again, and then he was sick of it. Like, he did a whole thing like, y'all not about to hold me to task for something that a bunch of people do and are still doing. And I was like, that makes sense. But then everything else was sounded very arrogant and dismissive. So it was a loaded situation.
Right. But I mean, you gotta, because how do you accept accountability for something like that in the grand scheme of it? You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, accept accountability for what you said and them nasty ass thoughts. And you gotta do better, bro. But like, as far as colorism as a whole, it's like I'm about to be the scapegoat for that. Yeah, that's crazy.
I feel like you have to accept that there is like no real true accountability as long as society functions in the anti-Black way that it is right now.
Mhm.
Like, and what we're calling accountability is may not be that for, like, because I'm a dark-skinned person.
Yeah.
And his whack ass apology, I don't know who this man is, but I know there's a lot of colorists and all this stuff, and a lot of stuff what they say and expect me to forgive, it's like, you have no say. And that's not how accountability should work. You know what I'm saying? Like, as the victim, you should have say and all that stuff. And it's like, it's just accountability how it is now, or what we call accountable, isn't accountability.
Mhm.
I don't know how to, or like what I'm trying to get at, but it's just like,
Now you spin.
yeah. And so like a lot of what people are like expecting is just harming.
Yeah, I think like it's hard because it's almost like a balance, because you have to know that even in a world where, let's say, someone like Tariq did give a good apology, it's like that's still not going to be enough for some people, and that's okay. But we don't really know what a good apology is. And then we've always seen that some people are accepting apologies when they weren't even the affected group.
No, that's a good point, though. It is practicing what you preach, though. That's a fact. But we talking about really, like, I think the consequence of it, because it's like niggas just want you to die on the cross. Like, it's really bad. Like, when they want you, they want you, and it's hard to diverge from that, because it's really not helping anything in the grand scheme of it. Once the 15 minutes has died down, like, we just look at them different, but we look at them the same way we would look at any person that acts that way or thinks that way. You know what I mean? Like, it's not really changing anything for real.
I think is problematic is when, like, I think when people are getting harassed so much for something that is not unique to them, that's where I'm like, what do we want? Do some of us just want to just say whatever about someone on social media in the guise of accountability? Or are we trying to get, and that's the thing, like on the internet, it's hard to get anything where people aren't trying to like beat somebody down, because the main thing they all say, whether it's Tariq Ali or other people, they say how like they don't get this pushback in real life. They only get it on.
That's a fact too. That's a fact.
Where I'm like, they use that as like, oh, it's only people on the internet mad, and I'm like, no, do you realize you're probably around people who think that that's okay? Or how many of us have the confidence in many ways to even call people out? If it's not a random stranger walking up to Tariq Ali like, oh, I saw your tweets, I want to fight. Even in real life, a lot of us have a hard time like confronting our friends during conflict, parents, bosses. It's not like we're all just in real life confident enough to
the system, confronting the system.
Shame. It's none of that.
Yeah. I mean, I've done some of it. Like, I've been in some places where people know I will say something where I thought I perfectly worded it to be, you know, gentle, but some people will come back to me and tell me that they seemed a little too direct or whatever. So I've done it when I felt it necessary, but then it, you know, usually nothing really comes from it.
Or y'all stand 10 toes on y'all shit. That's what we saying. That's what we saying. Stand 10 toes. I mean, you're not really about to see that though, because like, yeah, you're just not about to see that. People are, not to say cowards in real life, but it's like it's given that.
Yeah.
It's like That's not what I want to call y'all. There's definitely a way more educated way to put that, but that's what's given, and that's how people are in real life. When they see you in real life, they're still just about to be like, "Oh my God, it's that."
I would say people are under-resourced and underheard and not supported, especially victims, like just especially anyone who has been done wrong.
Can we say that though? Can we say that after Me Too? Can we say that after movements like Me Too?
Okay, yeah, because also when you think about Me Too, it started off as a movement about Black and poor people who were getting, assaulted. Exactly. And then what happened? It turned into people who had power, and that's who the focus went on, and that's where everything. That's we're getting to this part. That's like the main key issue is where we're seeing, oh, we can't get accountability because we're not resourcing the people who need their voices heard. We're not listening to everyone. We're not listening to what they think what is causing them suffering.
But
we're not listening to them.
We just went through the whole thing with Megan Thee Stallion, and it was like, though many of us did support her, it's hard because, again, I can't go to Megan Thee Stallion's house and show her how much I can't cook her breakfast. I can't show up for her really that much.
Right.
Like the way other people can. I know a lot of us were calling out other celebrities like, hey, like, I don't hear you talking about this on the internet. Because we don't know how they were showing up for her in person. And then it took 2 years for like a lot of other people to support her and believe her. So I feel like it's hard. I feel like in that way it's hard. I definitely think like in the regular scale, like maybe like, for example, like there's some situations at work where I felt like, oh, people were not showing up for me in ways where like I vocalized, people like boil it down to gossip. Like, oh, I talked to my friends about how I felt like I was being done wrong. But nobody was actually there to stand up for me. No one actually was at the meeting. No one was actually sending emails like, oh, I saw this happen too. Or telling people like, oh, hey, this person was either anti-Black or they minimized me. And you actually say that to people, but then you see them working with them. And it's like, no, you should be at least icing this person out so that they could really feel consequences or whatever. So I feel like that's another way where it feels like we bring stuff up and then things go back to normal, like really fast.
Yeah, and that's because we don't have compassionate systems put in place to actually ensure that someone's, that healing is coming. That healing is a process. And we just, it gets called out, da-da-da-da, here's the backfire, da-da-da-da. And then like nothing changes, or you hell-bent, you send somebody to jail and then like, oh, they're just in jail, like they're rotting away now, and like nothing gets changed, like or that's what I'm trying to say. We don't have systems or actual roles or in the foundations of our society that are actually compassionate about hearing what is causing a human being suffering and how we can try to combat that.
But I also think too, and I definitely agree with you there. I definitely agree with you. Absolutely. But going back to specifically healing, right? Isn't healing can only really happen within yourself, no? You know what I mean? In a sense? Like, doesn't healing end with you? Am I just like reaching?
I get that, but also it's, nature versus nurture. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to remember, you're the one who, at the end, you have to be willing to care about what somebody else is think, their opinions and all that stuff. But then you also have to realize you need to home that type of community for someone. You need to have that things where they don't feel scared to come out and say that stuff and to push back. But do we have that? No. Like, we don't have a lot of compassionate systems. We have this pucked ass criminal justice system. That's so,
But I know this might sound kind of bad, but I feel like a lot of people are not like going out on a limb. Like, I understand like it's hard to do. For example, like I will figure out a better way to say this, but I still really feel like more people should say names. Like, I really don't like the culture of like people being like, oh, this random woman was being racist at work or whatever, in an industry, a very big industry, whether it's the music industry, acting. can you please say her name? Like, I'm sorry. I understand you want to keep your job, but it's not like you can't work at Trader Joe's. It's not like you can't get a post office job. I understand you want this acting job and it provides you with some security, but it's like, and then people are like, oh, well, it's not like you could show up for them. But I'm like, somebody has to step out and do it. It feels like nobody wants to step out and do it. And then when they do, we've only seen it for like a select few people. And we still haven't even gotten to the healing you're discussing, like with people like R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, that white guy whose name started with an H. Like, it's like those people get called out. The people that were harmed by them finally feel like the comfort to speak up. Some of them, still not all of them.
Right.
And yes, they face some backlash, but at the end of the day, at least we got a name. Like, at least I could put a face to something. So I'm like, I really wish more people would just say the names, but I do understand there could be a lot of things that make them lose their career. But I'm like, at some point, if more people did it, I feel like we would actually start taking down these systems. Because this is the thing.
Will we start taking down the systems? Because I want to combat that, though, because, like, let's not act like Monica Lewinsky ain't happened. You know what I'm saying?
She did happen, but at the same time, nothing, like, more women didn't come out about their own issues. And then, so for example, in like Congress right now, there are so many young women who are probably being taken advantage of their superiors that are men, whether they are congressmen, whether they are the lead chief executor. These people are all being taken advantage of, or many people have similar stories. But nobody says anything because they do see the backlash that Monica Lewinsky said. So it scares people to not continue to come out. But I feel like if we keep censoring like our own comfortable temporary lifestyle, it really doesn't do anything.
Yeah. I feel like there's a point in having to accept that things are going to be uncomfortable as long as we are trying to get some semblance or an illusion to healing while we're still working under this system. Because like I said, I don't think there's any true accountability while we're still under this anti-white supremacist system. But while we're still here, there is going to have to be a sense of uncomfortability. But I don't really like.
That's how we even got here. Girl,
yeah.
We could still literally probably be picking cotton if the girls were not dying.
Yeah, like
people were putting their life on the line. People were like, okay, the odds are if I escape, I can be kidnapped and killed. And they still tried. So I'm like, I understand the stakes could be that high in some cases, and people don't want to do that. Like, people don't want to go through that pain, unemployment, starvation, whatever it is. But at the same time, so nobody's gonna do it. Like, that's why I'm like,
yeah, somebody should do it. But we should also realize, since we're not homing since the system isn't homing, the type of, environment where people don't, first off, the victim doesn't face backlash, and second off, the accused perpetrator doesn't face, dehumanization, then there's going to be, that, because it's kind of integral into the system. But I'm also saying, like, people should do that. I'm all for naming names, but like, it's gonna like, have consequences.
I don't think some people necessarily have to be a martyr, but at the same time, because I don't think it's like individual. Like, for example, protests. When people go to protests, people know people are consenting to the odds of something bad might happen, and people are still willing to do it. And I feel like a lot of the times when we're talking about change, we're like, oh, we're going to get all this change, but nobody's going to get burned. Somebody's going to get burned. Let's be real. Yeah. Do you still consent? If you don't consent, that's another thing. Okay, you said no. We're not going to coerce you. But there are going to be some people who do, and there have been people who do. But I feel like in a lot of these industries, people like to act like they're like, oh, I'm ready to like put my skin in the game, but you're really not ready. So just don't say anything.
Damn, that part.
Because I'm like, don't be like, oh, I can't say no names, but someone was doing this. And it's just like, you're not really ready for it then. Don't, if you make it be more planned. Like, so for
Mm-hmm.
example, people act like, oh, Rosa Parks just so happened to want to be rebellious. No, that was planned. That was highly organized. She did
Mhm.
not do that alone. She did not
Mhm.
invent randomly one day. They
Right.
planned that. So for example, I don't want to use Lotto as an example, but I'm gonna use her. Lotto, don't go on a radio show saying, oh, there's this guy who wanted to trade sex for a feature. Don't spontaneously do that. Plan that, organize it, have a whole thing in place. Let that be strategic. Don't let it be whimsical. That's not how these things happen. And I think
Right.
that's another thing is like people think, oh, one day I'm just going to randomly not name drop someone who is being predatory and harmful. You could plan it. That's how it's been done. So I think that's also a history element because I didn't know that. I learned that in college that Rosa Parks just wasn't in one day brave. I thought she just was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna do this today. No, they planned that for weeks.
Man, that's crazy. But nah, you're absolutely right. That's why I feel like it doesn't take. It's not just ever gonna be like just somebody. It has to be those multiple factors going on at one time that kind of contribute to the overall one idea. But like you said, it's about that organization. It's about that sanction, like making sure that we're all on one page and we're moving accordingly. Like niggas like to say, moving tact, all that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then we can start seeing some type of progression. But we know what that gets us to act like we didn't have the party. You know what I'm saying? Act like J. Edgar Hoover wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? Like, it's really trying to combat that as well because it's a system at this point. Like you keep saying, it's a thing that's it's constantly moving. It's constantly reproducing itself. So it's like, how are we trying to like not only acknowledge the problem, stop it from ever happening again, but then like evolving in our own right too, so we never have to regress back ever. You know what I mean? Like,
and I think it's also accepting that we have been broken down. Like when
crazy, we're isolated, crazy, yeah,
so isolated, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I feel like going back to what we were saying with the tweets is like further isolating these issues. It's like, come on, like these are bigger things. We can deal with it with more strategy. Let's like chill out with these one-offs.
Yeah, like
it's too deep. It's too deep. It's too deep. Like, I don't know.
And then it took us like an hour to come to this conclusion. So then that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really what is needed.
Yo, bro. Oh gosh.
It took us a whole hour going back and forth, relating. Someone said we went from Rosa Parks to Lotto. I'm sorry. I hate it.
Y'all don't see the correlation? Y'all don't get it? Like, X to Y. Fuck around, find out. Like, All right, y'all. That was great though. Deep conversation. Always great talking to y'all. I'm gonna drop out. On that note, before I fucking they see a different side. They about to see this woke side. Like, I ain't about to give it to them. We still on the internet.
That's exactly for me.
It's really that part. All right, y'all. Have a good afternoon, though.
All right.
Bye. I do have something else to say though, but I don't know. Are you about to head off to?
No, I mean, I'm not hungry yet. I'll give it another like 45 minutes.
Okay. I think, yeah, it is really about like some people don't want to put in the effort, or not necessarily. Some people don't want to organize, and some people do. And it's realizing that healing isn't going to come unless you organize. I think that's what I'm really trying to say. Yeah. And I don't know how to like, how do I say this?
Like how we'll get there?
Yeah. And why people aren't realizing that.
Well, I think it's because
maybe I'm wrong.
I think it's like just the accurate history. I think it's the accurate history because, again, if I had 2 classes in college, they were both civil rights classes. And it's like, if I didn't have those classes, how would I even have known what books to read, what, information to be provided, and then having an instructor that emphasized certain things and hearing it over and over. So I feel like a lot of those situations is like, again, going back, like, I don't necessarily blame Lotto, for not saying names or not knowing that she should have been more prepared in a situation like that. Like, you don't say things like that unprepared. I can't fully be how you don't know what you don't know. So I feel like in that situation,
and that's how the system keeps going, by keeping people ignorant that you do need to have that stuff prepared if you want to have all that stuff.
Because that's my thing. Like, I would love to help people out with those situations, but and that's the thing. And that's why I need a lot of these public figures to realize that they are allowed to be public figures because they're not smart. These people get platformed because they're able to just be manipulated by whatever mainstream wants them. I don't think we would have public figures that were actually strategic and know how to organize, you know? So I feel like if we had public figures like that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would be a lot more happy with things that are going on. I feel like people are platformed because they're noticed by the people who can help do the platforming, that they're not going to be a divisor, or what's the word? Defiant?
Disruptive.
There we go. That's the word, disruptive. They know they're not. Similar to, like, you know, and I tried to do some, I was trying to do some like voice memo to post, but the same reason why, like, I don't want to start a big thing, but with Beyonce continuing to go to the Grammys, or just Beyonce and any other Black artist that continues to go to the Grammys, and then having us as people be outraged when they aren't given their due diligence, it's kind of like, these Black people that continue to go are not going to be upset about being snubbed. They're going because they're okay with that structure. You continue to participate in things that you're okay with. So that's kind of what I'm trying to say. I'm seeing Beyonce and every other Black person that continues to go to the Grammys and submit to the Grammys for who they are, you know, instead of being like, oh, you know, outraged. They're fine with that system. That's why they keep going. And then we're the ones trying to put a 5-paragraph essay as to why they're racist. It's like, again, wasting our time.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, I think I really understand better. I'm still doing a lot of work to try and understand better, but thank you. I think I'm gonna head off now.
Okay.
All right, bye.
It said, Brittany said, I don't think Beyonce cares as much as everybody else does. Yeah, I don't think she cares. Tanmi, yeah, you could join if you want. Just be a real person. I'd be scared. We got flashed once, so I don't want it to happen again. But yeah, I went on a whole rant that I was going to post on Patreon about everybody using unnecessary energy as to say why Beyonce should have won Album of the Year. Why are we trying to prove that? We already know that woman is really talented and has made good music. Why are we having to defend that right now? Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
Pretty good. I mean, oh God, this is actually kind of making me nervous because I've never really talked in front of like a big span of people, and I kind of wish I had like the comment section in front of me so that I could.
You have it? You can't see it on the side, or you're on your phone?
Yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm actually about to try to pull up the live.
Just mute it. Mute your computer, because that's the only thing.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, I can try to say anything if I think I have mildly okay input.
Okay. Did you have any thoughts on the Grammys?
On the Grammy?
Wait, do you know what it is?
Like the music thing?
Yeah. Not even knowing.
Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that. I said.
No, honestly, this is perfect. This is perfect. It's really supposed to be who? What? Exactly.
I was gonna say I'm pretty good when it comes to like politics and like understanding. I don't know. I listen to a lot of politics.
Mhm.
No, I'm not like the top tier when it comes to politics, but I'm pretty good on that.
Well, what do you listen to?
Well, I usually watch things like Hassan.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, do
as
you
I
say
say,
on him? I don't think people
Hassan
really.
Piker. He's on
Yeah,
Twitch.
yeah. I don't think people really like him.
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. Wait. Pause. Everybody, get your. Now we need questions for you because you do not. How did you even end up here?
I just saw it in my YouTube recommended, so I was like, "Oh, this looks cool. I'll join."
Okay, so we have someone who is not always online and has a life.
Fair enough.
The rest of us. So people are saying that Hassan Piker is a bit problematic. I mean, I know he's problematic just because I hear people saying it, but I've never watched his stuff for myself. But you're saying you learn a lot from him, so what does he talk about?
He definitely looks at a lot of like news coverage. He started in the Young Turks, when first coming here,
Mhm.
and oh God, people are
Wait, is he
saying
not
things.
from the United States?
Yeah, he's from Turkey.
Oh, okay.
He cosplays as a socialist. I feel like they're saying that because he's rich.
Well, he's rich now, right? Off of streaming.
Yeah, and plus he's technically a nepo baby because his uncle ran the Young Turks.
Oh.
So
Okay, so yeah, he's been comfortable.
I would say so. He's not afraid to shy from that. I completely understand that.
So are the Young Turks like what are they? Do they say they're socialists or do they just report on news in a leftist fashion?
I would say the latter.
Okay. Because that has always been my thing. I'm like, okay, are they like Democrats? Are they liberal? Are like
I wouldn't say they're as liberal as like CNN or like ABC or MSNBC. They're a little more left than that, but yeah.
I feel like because he streams all the time, like when would he really have time to do a lot of research? It seems like he mostly goes off of like vibes. Like, okay, this sounds like it would be of the people. That's what I
I
think.
mean, he's been doing this for a minute.
Mhm.
And so like I guess it helps because I can articulate things just at least a little bit better,
Mhm.
but I've never really been on camera like this, so it's making me very nervous.
Oh no, you're doing
I
great.
apologize. I apologize to everyone in chat as well.
No, yeah, no, you don't have to apologize. What's the thing? Usually, so I've been trying to stray away from apologies when it's not necessarily like, so for example, if I'm late, I don't say, "Oh, sorry for being late." I say, "Thank you for your patience." So it's
I
like,
actually learned that in the service industry.
mhm, I like that. That's one of my favorite things. Um, I can't think of another one. There was like another one that you say instead of apologizing for something small.
Uh, um, but I did kind of like the discussion y'all were having earlier
Hmm.
about how I guess disconnected everyone seems
Hmm.
and like learning to like work together um when it comes to actually starting something because it can be really difficult. I've always like seen that in a way, especially when comes to things like police reform or just like trying to like bring a community together in a way that could actually last a little longer than um, like a few years or maybe even like a decade or two because this type of thing it spans for so long and can get so deeply ingrained and it can just fall apart very easily, especially if there's not enough coordination or community cooperation to keep everything the way that it should for not just
Hmm.
any like specific group's benefit, but for like everyone's benefit, especially I feel like especially for the Black community. But I also think about things for like indigenous people.
Hmm.
But yeah.
I think a lot of us just aren't good at handling conflict and disagreeing. I feel like I think I'm getting better at being able to disagree with people, meaning I typically don't even use the words disagree. Like I use it as my last resort. Like if we're about to finish a really long process of learning and hearing each other out, and then we come to the fact that we disagree, I never really start with the disagreement because I feel like it's hard to kind of backtrack from that. Like you stated you disagreed, and now you feel like you have to keep it up rather than just not saying it. And then people kind of see any type of like different thought as a disagreeing point, which I don't feel like that. But then also conflict, like some people are like really conflict avoidant, which could be fine. Like, I mean, it's fine to observe, but not like fine to like sit into. So I think that as long as we get better at handling conflict and not acting like everything has to be a debate, I think like we'll do better and just being calm, because it just seems like everything turns into a debate so fast and an argument, and I can't like that's my biggest thing. I don't have it in me to really debate much.
Yeah, it definitely does take a lot of personal energy, a lot of mental and emotional just stress. That is a very stressful environment, because it's not even about how right you are, it's about how you present yourself when having to debate somebody. And so it's so optics based, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think there's this level of like not wanting to feel like you lost in order to realize, oh, like in this conversation, I'm ready to change my mind, or I don't. Because this is the hard thing about it too, is like not everybody is going to be able to vocalize in that moment why they disagree. I think there are some of us, like I think myself, I've grown to be able to communicate why I might not really be feeling where something is going. But some people can't do that, which doesn't mean that their point isn't irrelevant. And they should have help. Like if someone isn't saying like, okay, I don't know why I don't really feel like this is something that I agree with, and have people actually engage with it. Like, okay, like let's figure that out, as to being like, oh, well, you don't even know why you disagree, so just shut up, kind of thing. I think that's a part of it.
Yeah, actually, I would say that makes a lot of sense.
Someone said I'm too agreeable, so someone will disagree with me, and I'll try to accommodate their viewpoint. I've been watching a bunch of debate discussion videos lately, and people are so terrible about just disagreeing. It makes it hard for anything to even develop past personal anger. Yeah, and I honestly think I don't watch a lot of those videos, but I think there are some of those videos that have been popular across time, where they put people who are going to disagree in a room, and then they disagree on the most surface level type of things. Like there really isn't much nuance. There's no fact checking. I think that's one thing where it's like all of us have to be very humble, that a lot of the times when we are debating stuff or having conversations, a lot of us do not have the facts. And a lot of us are like, well, I feel, and it's like, okay, you might feel like that, but there's nothing to back up that. Like, and that's okay. We all have memories we remember wrong. Girl, I think the statistic is like most of our memories are inaccurate or something. So with that being said, it's like we need more time for the facts.
Okay. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. I did kind of lose my train of thought, because you were talking about like
I don't think
debates and how like it is very feelings based and just not wanting to be wrong. It is mildly crazy to me, especially on that front.
Have you seen The Grapevine?
The Grapevine.
It was a YouTube series.
I'm not sure if I have.
So
Who was it by?
I think honestly, Other than typing in the grapevine on YouTube, I'm not sure what to make it more specific. Just put like the grapevine and just put in black. It's like a black round table. It's like a group of black people, and they discuss a topic at any given time. And it just can go left. Like, I feel like there were some like unnecessary people there, though I don't think people should be silenced. They would just have like some people that would throw the conversation off, and then everybody would be trying to debate one person and discredit one person instead of realizing that what that person is saying is rooted in like anti-Blackness and like not fact, and we're sitting here wasting minutes of the discussion on them. I think I would watch them a little bit, but the random conservative men they would have on there would just, that made me stop watching, because I'm like, why are we having these people derail the conversation?
But I feel like, especially when I don't know, I feel like it can get a little complicated, especially in like the forms of Black conservatism, because I think, and this is from personal feelings I've had in the past, it's just like, are you saying this for the benefit of the Black community, or are you just trying to reinforce what's already there for like personal gain? Mm-hmm. And that's something that very much worries me, especially like in discussions of like Black capitalism and how like we've always been raised to have this mindset of making sure that we can have something so that we're able to be comfortable and we're able to get into a nicer house and that we're able to get a better job to present ourselves better in the eyes of wider society, whether it doesn't even matter if it has to be here in America or in like in Canada or in the UK, but like if we go like somewhere in East Asia, like Japan or like Korea, they're going to look at us through that lens, because white people have kind of had that Eurocentric influence, even when it comes to other nations, if that makes sense.
Yes. Someone said, what was the topic? We were talking about debates, and then we were talking about grapevine. I'm going to add in Friday. Hey.
Hi. Yeah. I just I wanted to hop in a little bit. Mm-hmm. I know you guys were talking about like debating and like how like the current like culture around talking about like heated topics is kind of getting like really toxic, and I would agree with that. I just feel like the real problem behind it is like a lot of people have like very strong beliefs, but like you said earlier, like they don't have a lot of evidence behind those beliefs. So when they're challenged on them, like the strength that they feel connected to that belief, like it's kind of like I had a teacher tell me that like certain people will develop like their identity and attach their certain beliefs with their identity. And then so like when you challenge someone's specific belief, you know, you might not feel like too personal about it yourself, but they might feel that way, and then it becomes like a big thing where people are getting into heated as like fucking arguments and shit, like when they're supposed to be debating, you know, civilly. So I just feel like if people were like a little bit more conscious about the fact that we as humans can like develop those deep attachments to beliefs and kind of like be able to separate ourselves a little bit, like this is me and this is a belief that I hold, you know, someone not agreeing with this belief or someone feeling like this belief is not necessarily an intelligent belief doesn't necessarily have to reflect on me, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a big part. People, because I mean, we grow up calling people dumb as an insult, like figuring out, well, depending on where you're from, like you wait for any moment to be like, oh, you dumb. Oh, when it's time to go around to read the book, who's reading the slowest, make fun of them. So it's like, because there's this humiliation with the fact that, oh, I was just saying something that is false. And then I mean, too, like I also have to check myself that like when I'm in situations where I feel like I'm quote unquote winning a discussion, I try not to be like punish that person even more. Like just correct somebody and keep it going. You don't got to be like, oh, you see, I'm smarter, or what, let it fill your ego. Just be correct somebody, keep it moving. And I feel like a lot of people can't do that. It's like, oh, the fact that I'm correcting you right now is just a reason why you're weak and I'm better, and it just becomes this whole thing. So it's like you just got to be regular about all of this.
Yeah, I feel like what we have come to start to see a lot more, at least in today on social media, is like a lot of people get these platforms that don't necessarily have like a lot of maturity or a lot of working done on like their personal being, you know, and like feeling like they themselves are a complete person and are able to interact with people without getting on like petty personal levels. So it's just like when you have a lot more of those immature people like becoming like the the speaker the speakers for everybody else, you know, the representatives of like culture, it just becomes like the whole conversation of the culture is a shit show, you know? Like I've seen so many like stupid like arguments on like these black podcasts where like a bunch of black guys will, like talk shit about black women, or they'll have like a bunch of black women and they'll talk shit about black guys, and it's just like, how do these individuals like justify this content, you know, going into the studio that day? Like I don't understand how they can do that, but other than like just wanting to make sensational bullshit, you know, that like brings in the views.
It's to make money. I
Yeah.
feel like that is the primary drive for why anyone does that. It's to get attention, but most importantly, above all else, money. And I personally don't get it. Like, like it's just being rude just for the sake of being rude. So I don't know.
And that's the part that gets me mad the most, because, but two, I think there's a level of like, maybe they just don't feel like this stuff has an impact, like to where they're like, okay, I'm going to turn on this camera. I bought all this podcast equipment and we're going to stage an argument saying, oh, women need to submit and men need to pay all the bills so that everybody could be pissed off in the comments, not realizing that people really be bringing some of this stuff out of real life. Like people really will have these debates in real life, or like, or younger people could be listening to this, meaning like there are kids in elementary school, middle school who have access to podcasts, who are scrolling on Instagram. These things do not have filters. There is no Instagram for kids. So you're going to have like young boys, young girls consuming this stuff thinking that these people are dead serious when we know they're doing it for money. And there are younger people who think this is like what the big kids talk about.
Yeah, I feel like to a certain extent, it's fake dangerous. Like just letting these people like just say whatever they want online. But you know, you never want to like take away people's free speech, but like there's not enough, I'll say, like positive or yeah, just positive like creators that are like moving the discussion somewhere else, or like if they're even gonna have the discussion, like they're gonna take it in an honest direction and have like honest discussion about it, and not just be like a tit for tat, you know, screaming match where like by the end of it it's like you can believe whatever you want to believe, I'm gonna believe whatever I want to believe, and you know, we don't go forward. Like I feel like there is generally like a disconnect between black men and black women. Like me as a black man myself, like I see that with like my own parents, like how their relationship, their romantic relationship was like going on throughout the years of my life. I've seen it with like my other friends, you know, in my personal circle, like how their parents are or how they will interact in their own relationships. And there is like a huge disconnect on how like men want to like envision the world and how black women want to envision the world. And I feel like we do have to address a lot of those things. Like I feel like a lot of black men feel like the world is kind of like all against them, and so it's just like, you know, like fuck it, like I'm gonna take this more selfish individualistic mindset and I'm gonna try to get whatever I can out of the situation, you know, because like you only live once, you know, and I don't want to live a shitty life where like I'm just trying to take care of everybody else, and everybody else is treating me like shit, you know? Like, a lot of young black boys, like, grew up with, like, their mom talking shit about black dudes, and then, like, when you think about that, like, I'm gonna grow up to be a man. Like, I'm gonna be the same ancient dude that she's talking about right now. And, like, it's like a negative reinforcement for him as, like, a young boy, you know? I never experienced that personally, so, like, I don't have that skewed perspective on certain things. So I can be like, oh, like, black men have the ability to become, like, great fathers and great providers for their families, but it heavily relies on that man as an individual being a great communicator, being a great family man, like, wanting to be there for his children. Like, a lot of the things that we didn't receive as children growing up, we want to expect, like, to get out of our relationships, like the attention and the love and the joy, like, when we become an adult. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be able to fill that void. You can only do that for the children. And, like you said earlier, like, the kids are being, like, indoctrinated by the bullshit, you know? They're, like, being more, like, it's more prevalent to them. So, like, if I was a black kid growing up, like, I had both my parents, you know, like, their relationship is swell, you know, I don't have to deal with, like, at least the relationship side of bullshit that can happen in black families, like, and I get exposed to this sort of content, you know, and it kind of, like, starts, like, a rift in, like, my mental ability to, like, understand relationships, and, like, the theological ability of how I should understand relationships as a man growing up. You know, when all the men around me are being like, yeah, like, fuck it, you should treat women like shit. Like, you should treat her like shit until she proves herself to you, you know?
Do they say that outside of the podcast? Like, you hear that in real life?
Honestly, it's not as deep as to say, like, you should treat women like shit, but it's like the general consensus amongst dudes. Like, I'm 24 right now, so when I was 19, 18 years old, like, the general consensus amongst us young men is like, you shouldn't really give a fuck about, like, what a woman thinks, because it's only gonna, like, hinder your ability to, like, interact with her. Like, if you care whether or not a girl likes you, not in a way where you're, like, constantly dealing with a girl even though she doesn't like you, but if you care whether or not a girl likes you and you don't know that information, you know, you might stop yourself from acting, you know, in a more romantic way with her, when, you know, she might like you, or she might grow to like you, but you just completely killed that chance, you know? So it's kind of like a lot of the red pill community, like, ideologies come out of, like, young men trying to figure out, like, how should I date and, like, go about having relationships with women my age and, like, older. So it's like, when you're trying to figure out how I can date and get with women, like, you're gonna look at the guys, you're gonna look at the older men, and, like, a lot of these, like, methodologies, these mindsets come from older dudes, like, more traditional dudes that are like, yo, like, if she's not cooking for you, like, fucking drop the bitch. Like, you don't gotta deal with her. She's not cooking for you. She's not doing this, that, and the third.
Scary.
I was gonna say I definitely heard a lot about that, and through things, I think a commentator, Olivia, actually brought up Andrew Tate and how it's really just to reinforce patriarchal structures, whether they be rooted in, like, white supremacy or what have you. It definitely comes from that, because that's really the traditional values that a lot of people are just ingrained to have and just grew up having to hear about, and having those overly masculine expectations. As Friday was bringing up, it's very valid, because even seeing my own brother and him trying to also fulfill that when being the provider, being the stronger individual, mentally, physically, stoically emotional. I've seen that. So yeah.
And to me, every time, like, I understand that's the reality, but it's just so, like, wild to think about as someone who is, like, it could be just a lot to be, and this is the thing. It's so hard to even empathize with some of these men, because it is a lot to be the provider. And I feel like I've heard some of them using that as a way to then be like, women expect too much from us. We are going to realize it's a lot to be the provider, but then we're going to put that back on like the expectation that women has put on us. And it was like, we did not put that expectation. Yes, some women now are saying that they want that in dating, but that has been a history of women getting paid less than men. It has come from women not even having rights until they were married. So yeah, this is not just made up. But again, I think it goes back to that history. That is not a factor in these conversations. Nobody's like, oh, this was the women's suffrage movement. Here are the ways that it succeeded and didn't succeed, because it's always like a balanced conversation, knowing that Black women didn't get a lot from those movements, but those movements did have like very good points as to why those women were doing what they were doing. So, and I don't expect that from these people.
I mean, I would agree with you for the most part. I would just say that it's important to realize that like a lot of these red pill guys, like their main formula is to use something that is like understandable and a logical like way of thinking, right? And then to take that to an extreme and to use extreme examples of like relationships in real life to like justify the things that they're saying. So like, for example, Andrew Tate, like he'll be like, oh, like men are better drivers, so like I would never let a woman drive my like the car. Like that doesn't logically like it isn't relatable.
Mm-hmm.
But they just link these two things like they are.
Yeah.
Because they can. Because like they're speaking like they're the authority figure on the information itself. So it's like when they pull up these statistics and stuff, and then they use the statistics to justify some bullshit that they have to say, it's just like they're using that ability of like, I have this platform, I'm the authority figure on this platform, and like I'm presenting like an authority figure's information, authority figure's statistics to like justify my claims. And that like gives a lot of legitimacy to the things that they say. And so I think it's like important to like break down their arguments like segment by segment, so you can really like deconstruct their ability to create that legitimacy, you know? Because it's like when you think about a man's like obligation or responsibility to like provide for a family, like if we didn't live in the fucking 21st century and we were in the fucking wild, and you got a girl pregnant and now she has a baby, it's your child. Like it's your honest to God responsibility and like your obligation to take care of that family you just created. Like even when we were fucking cavemen, we understood that. Like, and we've just come to a place now in society where like there is a ton of materialism in today's like day and age. There's a lot of like younger people, a lot of younger women, a lot of younger men that have like extremely materialistic like views and perceptions on how they should live their lives and how other people should live their lives. And when you start dealing with those people in relationships, they have a lot of expectations when it comes to like the relationship and gifts and all this like extravagant shit, you know, whether you're a woman or you're a man, you know, it's the same thing. And it's like these aren't the normal everyday average relationships that most people are going to get into. If I meet a girl, most of the times, like I want to say 5 times out of 10, the girl isn't going to be materialistic, worried about a fucking Birkin bag and shit, like talking like that, getting her nails done every fucking week on the dot. Like that's not normal. Like there is women that act that way, you know, there is a culture of women acting that way, but it's not huge, it's not incredibly popular, and it's very niche. And so when they put the spotlight on these niche like parts of the culture or niche parts of relationships that are, in my opinion, extreme, like it allows for them to like make these outlandish claims where it's like, oh, like because like the men are the the providers, like, you should be able to cheat on your girl. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
I've seen clips of them saying that. I've definitely seen clips of where it's like just justifying negative behavior. Let me add Brittany. Hey.
I have to oh, can y'all hear me? I have to unmute myself.
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
I wanted to bring it back to the whole debating / argument thing, and then like dip back into the chat.
Okay.
But so literally I think it was yesterday, I was on Twitter and there was somebody who tweeted like their local coffee shop had put up a sign of, what is it called? Like, no emotional support animals or something like that, only service dogs. So I was scrolling through like the thread, as you do on Twitter, and I saw a guy. I think, okay, the original poster, she was like, let me just pull it up so I can be verbatim.
Wait, while you're looking at that, may I touch on something?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
So like, Friday, when you were bringing up what some like these red pill guys have to say when it's like statistics, when it came to Andrew Tate, it wasn't even like really statistics. It was a bunch of just anecdotal stuff. It was his personal experience and like the women that he's been around, of like not wanting to drive at night and X, Y, and Z. And that's so extremely silly. And I feel like a lot of like younger people feel more inclined to be in touch with like that, or like correlate or agree with the older values that existed back then, because that's just easier. That's what we've had before. It's what they're familiar with. And also I would genuinely like to think that a lot of us have grown past that because technology is more advanced. I mean, life expectancy is a lot higher than it ever really has been through a scientific standpoint. And so I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if you found your thingy yet. My apologies.
No, you're good. I know I feel like I'm derailing the conversation because it was a good conversation, but I just wanted to bring it back to the debate / argument thing, because since I was on Twitter, one of the original posters, she said that a lot of people are abusing like emotional support animals and like / service animals, like the accessibility for people who actually need it in I guess like food spaces, public spaces, and stuff like that. And so I know y'all probably seen how a lot of these people, they like to have this certain take on, well, it should be the same for children. And I'm like, why do y'all compare kids to animals? Like, let's do that. And so I was like, there was this one guy who basically had this take. And so I was like, y'all telling yourselves every time y'all use this stupid ass argument of comparing kids to fucking animals. And he gonna reply to me this morning talking about some, y'all telling yourselves every time y'all swear, aka cursing, because I think he's from overseas. So I went and read his bio, but he was like, y'all telling yourselves every time y'all swear and use abusive language towards complete strangers on the internet. And I replied, okay, with the thumbs up emoji. So you still hate kids, got it. And I'm just wondering, like, y'all can tell me if I was wrong or if I just have a very aggressive argument style. Like, I don't know.
So basically, you were inputting that they shouldn't be comparing kids to service animals because they were basically comparing it as to, oh, kids shouldn't be coming into stores the same way they're banning service animals. Yeah, that is actually a lot.
Yeah, and I always see that take, and it's like, why do y'all hate children so much? Like me, I wouldn't say I love kids, but I think they deserve respect. They're another human being just like us. So
I think that's a big one. I really wish I could remember the book. I was having a conversation with these two people who recommended these books that show that all cultures, like all over the world, treat kids as like subordinate and not like autonomous. So that's something everyone has in common. unfortunately, and we always see that on the internet. Like me, I don't want to have any children, but I don't hate them.
Yeah.
And it's weird because, again, we all have that experience of probably being a child that was treated as a subordinate. So it's kind of like, even though we all have that experience, it doesn't allow people to empathize. But no, I don't think you're wrong, because at the same time, like, it is kind of what it is on social media to an extent. Like, there are ways where we are trying to reel people in and try to create guidelines for how we all act on social media. But, like, I don't think always trying to be the bigger person, you know, is gonna even any of that out.
Okay, because I be feeling like I'm like aggressive in my approach, and I feel like it doesn't really get anywhere. But I feel like, I don't know, I think that's just me, but that's also how I can hear it when I'm like arguing with my brother, how like we use a certain tone like to make people feel stupid. We won't call each other like names, but it's like, it's the tone, and it's like, it's really like somebody said in the comments like a while back, they said there's a lot of shame in learning and teaching. And it's like, I do that because it's like, like, why aren't you getting it?
But also it's a way to, like, you also have to be able to take it. Meaning, like, for example, like when there's debates on the internet and they're like, oh, straight people suck. Like, okay, like whatever. Like, I'm gonna be like, oh my goodness, I'm so offended. Like, it is what it is. Or like if I say something and because I'm straight, or I constantly am struggling to see things out of the binary and someone calls me out, take it. Like, it's not like, oh my gosh, you should have said it better. Like, there are going to be times where you just are going to have to take it. So that's one. But I also think there is a good point in there where it's like, we be knowing, like, it's hard. Like, it's actually hard to not put in your voice, like your tone when you disagree, or when you're getting angry, or when you're being condescending.
I don't know. I just be feeling like I think it's an ego thing. I also don't like want to lose the argument, and it's like, no, you're wrong, I'm right. And I'm so aggressive in my approach because I try to be better about it, because it's like, I don't know. I don't mind. I also don't mind when people call me out and stuff and tell me I'm wrong. It's definitely like, it definitely humbles you, but it's like, okay, I kind of needed that. But it's like, I don't do anything to change my approach moving forward. So I don't know. Maybe I need to watch some debate videos, and I don't know.
Depending on the debate, it can get very toxic.
For sure.
So I don't know. It's not healthy to consume on a daily basis. Speaking from
I'm trying to get like you.
Yes,
no, for real, because I be on Twitter every day.
So that's one thing, like pulling back. But I also feel like it's really learned. Like, again, we're all in like our mid-20s. So I think it's the beginning stages of where we are, because there's somebody that's going to be in their mid-30s coming to the same conclusions that you're coming to right now. So it really depends where you're at in it. But I've definitely been trying to do a lot of work in adjusting my tone and just being fine with being like wrong sometimes or uncomfortable when I didn't do something perfect.
I don't want to end up old in older age and being like our elders who just can't listen.
So defensive, you know?
Yes. Oh my God. Ooh, lesbosexual says, side note, happy Pisces season. My birth giver is a Pisces, and so I have some qualms.
Yeah, we're not that excited.
I'm a fire sign, like.
But I would say in general, yeah, someone said stop going back and forth with people. I would definitely say that. Like, I cannot. Because going back and forth insinuates some sort of debate, it's not a conversation. I can't do that. I'm like, as soon as we get into that territory, I'm not going back and forth.
Yeah. That's why I had to end it with the, okay, so you still hate kids. Got it, period.
Yeah, I'm not.
But part of me wanted to still argue. That's my problem.
Yeah, so that's the part too, where it's a little fun to argue. It's fun to, you know. So I think that's why I feel like it could be a time and a place. Meaning, like, I feel like as we progress in society, we are gonna need like a healthy amount of arguing and tension, you know, and there has to be like a place for it. Just for like the overachievers, like there has to be a place for them in society, especially if they overachieve in terms of gaining money. Like you could do that in another form of fashion. And I feel like we always, and I think healthy debates kind of are going back to music. Like no matter what artists we say right now, we can never come to a complete consensus on whether we like their music. Is it good? Is their voice like I think those are like healthy arguments. Like sometimes people do take it too far.
Them stands.
Yeah, like stands take it too far, but I think music is one of those things where it could be healthy discussions, or even movies, TV shows, whether or not we like it. Those are, I think, healthy arguments.
Yeah, because like my friend, like a couple weeks ago, we were all on FaceTime with like all of our friends, and she likes Taylor Swift. Mm. I'm not into that like at all. And she knows, but like when she was playing it, I was like just respecting, because I'm like, this is what she liked. This is my friend. Like I respect her interests and stuff like that. So I'm just listening. Then my Wi-Fi cut out, and she thought I hung up on her. But then I had called her. I was like, oh, a lot of this, like the production sounds like this band that I listen to, and blah blah blah. And so I don't know. Yeah. That's like a healthy discussion, I guess, but
Taylor Swift has really good music sometimes. I think so.
I think it just depends on the mood. Like I'm really never in the mood for Taylor Swift.
To me, like, she don't feed me, but I don't know. I get why.
If I was more like, I'm a chill person, but I feel like it's like too light. Like she's not singing lullabies. She's not really singing ballads that much, to my knowledge. She does have like upbeat, but it's too like honed in a way. Like I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, I liked her when she was in her country era. I really thought she was like from Tennessee.
Like that thing, Teardrops on My Guitar was my
song. It's such a good song, but like after she left her country era, it don't give to me. But I don't know.
I was gonna say personally, it's kind of like Miley Cyrus. How like Miley Cyrus's old music was pretty nice. I liked her as Hannah Montana. I would watch Hannah Montana on Disney. Like it was good there, and then Wrecking Ball was all right, and then afterwards it just I'm not really for it.
Yeah, I mean,
like I feel like I could probably get into her newer stuff, but I just don't think I'm the audience, because again I think too, it's like you gotta be socialized to it too, because if Hannah Montana was big right now and I'm 25, I probably would not be a stan. I probably wouldn't. But because of that nostalgia, because we grew up with it, we have that connection. Just like what's her name? China McClain. I never watched the TV show she was on, so I couldn't create a connection. Similar to with Zendaya when she was on Casey Undercover, whatever. I didn't watch those things. I was too old at the time to watch those things. So I don't have the same relation. But I could understand why people did the same way I was connected to Miley or Raven.
I would say heavy on the socialization, because my friend who likes Taylor Swift, she like, she grew up in a military town. So I guess she was probably more surrounded by more white kids. And I definitely used to be the person to judge like, oh, like you listen to white people music. But I've definitely grown since then. But compared to like me, I grew up all Black community like my whole life. So it's like a lot of hood nigga music.
Yeah. That's what I be forgetting, because that's the thing. Like everybody I listen to is pretty much Black. And that's just because my parents, I grew up with them just only playing that stuff. And the only time I was open, I was given whatever the word is, to white artists was Disney. So after I was too old for Disney, I wasn't watching MTV. It just wasn't introduced to me. So I just never got used to it.
Somebody said on Twitter the other day, I always bring up Twitter. That's how you know I'm on this. But no, somebody said on Twitter the other day, since like nobody goes to MTV to look for like new music and stuff like that anymore, because MTV is not leading that conversation no more. It's not the mecca to go look for new artists, or you don't wake up to MTV no more. It's just ridiculousness 24/7.
Exactly. I don't know why they did that. But yeah, it's exposure. Because two, the only reason why I ever watched Grey's Anatomy was because when I got to college, all of these new white kids that I was around were always like, Grey's Anatomy, Grey's Anatomy. I'm like, what the hell is that? I binged it, and I don't want to say I love it, but at the time I loved it, and I could fit in with all the references. I couldn't get into the other stuff. Like, I vividly remember I got to college, some white girl was talking about Stephen Colbert, and I was just like, oh, who's that? And she almost tried to embarrass me. She was like, how you don't know who that is? I was like, I just don't. We're in two separate worlds, you know.
Yeah.
And now that I have access to you, I Googled Stephen Colbert. Now I know who that is. But it's just like some of us just don't know.
Yeah.
I can mildly relate, because I mean, me and my siblings like watching Toonami on Adult Swim, and so we would watch like a bunch of like different animes and grow up listening to that, and then they would listen to like Japanese music, and then later on Korean music, and we would just play around with that. So that's kind of like a backstory to why my username is what it is, because I thought it was an interesting variation. But
Mine is just my initials.
Yeah. And I think too, it's kind of one of those things where I don't really have an example for it, I think. But you know how you probably hear a reference of something, right? But you never really get it. And then one day you watch a certain show, or you hear a certain song, and you're like, oh, this is what all these people were talking about. Like you kind of would hear it, and now you finally understand it. I don't have a perfect example for it, but like it's one of those things where something finally clicks.
No, okay, I'll say this for me. Like, I always like would catch certain episodes of the Boondocks, but I never like watched it until like during the pandemic. And then I started getting why people was like, oh, this is basically a Black anime. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because they be fighting in the art style and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember what. Oh gosh. I'm sorry. I actually did just listen to the Boondocks' Tom Dubois cover.
Usher.
Yeah.
I gotta get it. I don't know. I feel like I'm intimidated of getting into the Boondocks because I feel like it's so much I have to catch up on. Because every time I do
3 seasons, I think
it's kind of short, right?
Yeah, it was a quick watch.
Episode, I'm like, oh, this show is spot on. Oh, you know what? I think I could reference. So when I started a couple of years ago, when I started watching Gossip Girl, I started to see a lot of influences that show had on shows that I would watch that were more current. So I would see how there were similar things that show clearly was like a blueprint for that other people will do. Or it's kind of like when you watch Scandal and then you realize how many actresses or actors that were on. No. When you watch Grey's Anatomy, you realize how many actors or actresses that are now on Scandal, and you got to see where they started. So it's kind of like that. Like when you go back into the past and you see where kind of some people came from or certain references that were supposed to like pay homage. Like, for example, if you never watched Everybody Hates Chris, like you wouldn't know that a certain character on Abbott Elementary is on there to be kind of like so yeah, it's that stuff.
I feel like I derailed the whole conversation. I always do that.
I had a train of thought and I completely lost it.
I'm a derailer. I'm a disruptor.
We had Friday in here, and he put in the private chat. He said, "Thanks for having me, everybody."
I was low-key when I was waiting in here. I kind of stopped listening to what he was saying, because not on purpose, but I don't know. I forgot what y'all were originally talking about, and then I think he started talking about podcast stuff. I don't know how that. And what he was saying.
We were like, oh, like conversations are just like not in good faith. People are scared to be wrong, misinformation. And then it came to like people on podcasts do that. They don't have healthy debates on there. They don't have, good conversation. Yeah. They have fake information that cannot be fact checked. no one wants to admit they're wrong or whatever. So that was like the example of it. And then it was kind of like more examples of just how toxic men are using that.
I feel like a lot of conversations, or I guess I feel like a lot of wretched podcast conversations always end up turning into like romantic or love dynamics. And it kind of got me into this, like, there's this word, I think it's called like allonormativity. Hold on, I'll look it up.
Actually, has anyone seen Wednesday?
I still need to watch it.
I've seen like the first few episodes. I didn't finish it.
Is it good?
I mean, okay. I don't think it's for me.
Okay, but yeah, allonormativity is the assumption that all human beings are allosexual, basically meaning that they experience sexual attraction to other people. But I first heard about this like through a YouTube video, and the way the YouTuber described it, because I forgot what the video is about, but they was basically saying like how like people just assume that other people are into like romance and love and all that stuff, and that it's happening to them as well, when that's not always the case. And because the only reason why I don't even know why I brought this up, but I think about this a lot is because I feel like a lot of TV shows, because I like to watch a lot of stuff, even movies, to me it seems like the plot will be derailed just to focus on a love story. And it's like, other things happen. Like, why does everything turn into a love story? Or why is that the only thing that people get obsessed with? And I feel like there needs to be a shift.
Yeah, like for example, there will be like a slavery movie, and they're derailing the plot to show us how two people are there's also a romance that progresses throughout it. And it's like, I don't think we need this unless it's going to be something deeply focusing on how like extremely oppressed people, by and large, were figuring out ways to receive intimacy. That'll be the point. It's like, oh, we want the slavery to be over, but we also want this relationship to help end slavery. And it's like, you've lost the plot.
No, for real.
They be doing it so seamlessly that we be coming out of the movie like, Brad Pitt and Lupita, thank God they exist because slavery is over. And it's like, whoa, they be doing that to us.
No, I've been thinking about that in dystopian movies when like they're literally their lives are at stake, but they got time to have sex. Like,
exactly. They're like, oh, but this slow burn couple finally are together. And it's just like, and to me, I'm thinking about they just having sex when they haven't showered in 2 months. That's what I'm thinking about.
That's what I think about.
I'm like, that's disgusting.
I'm like, she got a cut on her stomach. Like, how she not even? You trying to be careful because of the bandages. Like,
think, haven't eaten. I'm like, have y'all seen on The Wilds on Amazon Prime?
I don't have Amazon Prime.
Isn't The Wilds like another variation of Yellow Jackets?
What's Yellow Jackets?
Hold on, let me look up The Wilds. Because I feel like we had a conversation about those two shows before.
No, I'd watch
live. I don't know.
No, we had a show about Severance, and then I want to watch that, but I've never heard of Yellow Jackets.
Yeah, no, it was like I think it was a while back, but I remember you bringing up The Wilds, but most of us, I think, had watched Yellow Jackets. I haven't watched The Wilds, though, because isn't it like they're deserted or something, or they...
Yeah.
They're stranded, yeah, so it's kind of like Yellow Jackets, kind of. Same, kind of, but I haven't watched it.
But yeah, they just be having intimate moments where it's kind of like, I feel like we just gotta wait till we get clean or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially them stranded stories, because like they don't even know what to do, so they're really rank. Like.
But what was I gonna say about what you said? Oh, the romances. Yeah, I think like that's the only part that I start to get frustrated with, because I feel like in these debates we forget that you are actually supposed to like each other. Like though there's this debate on the internet where it's like, oh, it could be patronizing to tell women to date guys that actually like them because some guys will lead you to believe they like you. So I'm like, yes, I understand that nuance. But like, I think people forget, like, and I don't want to say people forget, but I think that some relationships, there isn't that mutual, like, we both really like each other. Because I feel like if you did, you would try to handle things with a little more care, than you are with a random person on the street. So it's kind of like, okay, I actually like you and we are going to move into an apartment together. How do we actually talk about how do we pay for things, and have this conversation in a way where we block out social media and we talk about what we actually have. How much money do me and you have? What is usable, instead of we have all these fictional discussions before we're actually in the situation.
Yeah,
we're not looking at the situation for what it is because we're thinking about the hypotheticals that we've debated passionately.
Yeah, I don't know what to add because like I agree because it's like they're not being real with their their isolated situations.
Yeah.
Because they might believe one thing because social media has led them to believe, and influencers have maybe led them to believe these things, but it's like, what's going on in your real life? You might want your man to pay for everything, but you probably make more than him.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real.
Unrealistic expectations, I feel like.
Oh, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh, because I was going to say, I think I saw a debate, or not even a debate. It was just somebody stating their very binary take on something like taking out the trash is like a man's thing. And it's like, I get you probably don't want to do it and it's disgusting, but if you're by yourself, like, you just gonna let trash pile up? Like, let's be real.
Yeah, exactly. What are you gonna do?
Like, it's time to grow some lips, some nuts.
That's why it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like, okay, like, what is common sense? And then if that's not so common, can we even trust each other to have a conversation about it? You mean to tell me we can't have a regular conversation on how we're going to split the chores? And then it don't always have to be 50-50. God forbid I get sick and it was my day to take out the trash. So you going to say I still got it? No, you just going to take out the trash. So it's one of those things where I'm like, why are we... Sorry.
You good.
I'm like...
It just had to go the extra mile.
Exactly. I'm just like, whatever is our real situation, as long as we come to a conclusion about it, it does not matter. If two people do decide this guy, regardless of the situations, is going to pay for everything, I don't care. Y'all decided it, and I trust that you all are deciding it. But if you in a relationship and you think y'all decided something, and then you're realizing, oh, I didn't really develop my own opinion. I just went with whatever somebody's saying. Then I could see how the internet has influenced you to probably stand up for yourself or whatever. But some people be coming online and being like, well, this is like, for example, someone would just tweet like, again, I prefer for my boyfriend to make me waffles in the morning. And someone would be like, well, why isn't he making you bacon? Because my man makes me bacon. And it's like, oh my God, who cares? This person is just randomly saying something. So that's when it becomes weird, where somebody just says, well, me and my girlfriend, we just split the bill. So someone is going to come in like, how dare your girlfriend allow? And it's just like, we decided it. That's you do your own thing.
Yeah. That's the thing I guess I'm taking into account more now, because I think I used to, I guess I would call it self-sabotage. I would like look at these debates and like just like keep clicking on like the takes that were horrible, and it's like, you're dumb. Like, why would you say? And then it was just like, it was like doom scrolling basically.
Yeah.
And it's like, now it's just like, if I see something I don't like, I just click off now.
Yeah, it's just stuff where it's kind of just, or for example, there was this tweet or there was this video where someone was like, oh, if it was like main three things. This girl was like, oh, if I start a business and I'm not using sustainable stuff, then that's a problem. But if I shop expensive, then that means I'm elitist. And then it was like, oh, if I only shop secondhand, that means I'm taking stuff from poor people. And I'm like, that is just the most simplified version of like every debate on the internet about like shopping, when I don't think people should be doing that. Like, again, if you shop secondhand and you really gonna let somebody online get to you about the fact that you could be possibly taking clothes from people who need it, maybe, yeah, in a context where you had that trend of like rich people going to thrift stores and buying stuff they didn't need. Okay, cool. That's a microcosm. But at the same time, that doesn't apply to any and everyone. That's not, you know? And then if you want to buy stuff that costs a lot and it's actually good quality, and even if it's not good quality, if you wanted that design and you had the money, who cares in the grand scheme of things, you as an individual? And then whatever the example, all of these things, if it's happening in moderation, there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, okay. You're not supposed to internalize every debate on the internet. It just could give you another perspective, and you use your own discernment of how it applies to your life. If I saw a bunch of poor people on the internet debating about how rich people are taking all the good stuff at the thrift store, and I was rich and I was doing that, maybe I should check my behavior. But if it don't apply to me, let's move on and stop acting like we're trying to say that like there's a perfect way to be a human being.
I don't know why anyone would complain about that, because like going to thrift stores, I mean, it helps in not aiding in fast fashion. It's kind of just a reduce, reuse, recycle type of deal. So I don't know why anyone would really complain about that. Like, I understand if it gets trendy and then a lot of stuff just gets used and then thrown out to the dump, it can be extremely wasteful. But like, outside of that, I've heard of that, but I didn't really think much of it.
Let me add. Hey.
Hello. How's it going? Sorry, my room is super dark. It's like been raining this week in the state I live in.
You're fine. I'm literally using a fake background because my room looks.
And someone thought it was real earlier.
Yeah,
This is shocking. My camera's mirroring me, so I look weird to myself.
I the first time I was in this, it happened. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I can keep my camera like this if it helps make you more comfortable.
All of this is so helpful. Thank you. The meta commentary is so helpful. I love when T talks about like saving money and stuff, because I'm 26. I feel like I wasn't really prepared to like start paying bills, and now my gas bill is like $96 like every month, and I'm like, I live in a studio apartment. Like, this is the heating. It shouldn't be this expensive. So, like, just trying to cut things out of like buying. Like, it's not about buying cheaper. It's just about buying less in general.
Yeah, like, and using the stuff. And that's why I'm like, some people aren't really struggling, because nobody has to tell me at this point to consume less, because I cannot afford to consume more. And everything I buy, I'm very like meticulous about it. I'm like, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to use it this much, or like constantly trying to figure out how to better use stuff. So that's why sometimes I'm like, I think some people aren't even in that situation to understand why we're having this discussion.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how the rest of you feel about like, I mean, we don't have to get very specific about income, but like, I have a regular-ish 9-to-5 job. Like, it's full-time, and I still live like in a very modest apartment that I feel like is like the rent is dragging me some months. I'm like, all right, I can get it to you like 5 days after the first, like, et cetera, and like, I don't know. I just feel like I can only cut so many places out of my budget without living like a robot, like without eating pellets and like, I don't know, etc.
But don't let some of this hustle culture people get to. They'll be like, well, you should eat rice and beans until you save up enough for your LLC. And it's like,
yo, why is rice and beans like, I'm Mexican, that's my favorite meal, like, not racial, but like, it's so funny. I can eat rice and beans every day, and I do. It's like a comfort food to me. But I don't know. I feel like especially like food prep kind of culture makes me so depressed. I feel like I look at their meals sometimes and I'm like, I enjoy eating very basic like meals, but I wouldn't enjoy some of the recipes that like TikTok has you believing is like all the rage. Like this is what everyone's eating. These are the gym hacks. I'm like,
yeah, because even though like similar, I eat certain foods on a budget, but at the same time, I enjoy those budget foods, and I also change it up when I feel like it. Like right now, my favorite snack is like blueberry Eggo waffles with a lot of whipped cream on it. And that be like my dessert sometimes. I just grew up eating that. So it just brings me a lot of joy. It's relatively cheap now. I get it from like Food Lion. So that grocery store is pretty cheap. So I get a huge box for like $5. So it's like stuff like that is you could figure out how to budget joyful food. But trying to tell people like kind of like what to eat, especially at a discount, like could be depressing. Like food brings a lot of us joy. We don't just eat to survive.
Kind of on politics, and I'm not Black, but there are a lot of Black people on this call so far. And on food, a gallery that I have a proximity with put on a show recently called Soul Food, where they're kind of aware of the fact that soul food comes from like an African American term. However, it's an open call. So I was wondering, like on the topics of soul food, like is this considered like a form of cultural appropriation? What does everyone like think?
Wait, where was this soul food thing?
It's a art gallery, and it is it's small, it's local, you know, it's run by well-meaning like liberal people for what that matters. But you know, they're aware that the term soul food has like this history in the United States, but they're kind of opening that term up for everyone to like, what is your soul food?
Oh my God.
Yes. Okay. So
said it.
What?
That is
Just
what.
say, oh yeah, what's your favorite dish you had growing up, or like what's
comfort food, right?
What's a food you like from your culture, like soul food?
Okay, it's February this month. I think like I'm trying to like put.
Wait, so they're doing this for February?
The show opened last Friday.
Okay.
And someone had asked me what I thought about it, but I didn't really think too much about it. I'm like, okay, they're putting on like an African American History Month, like activism show. They've done a BLM show in the past. They've done like a Black History in the past. This one seemed to me a little bit more on like a consumerist, like history and culture is what you can consume, like what you can like, I don't know, grasp for. So it just felt weird that they said soul food instead of another good food.
Yeah.
Comfort.
Yeah, because soul food is very specific to Black culture. I mean, that's kind of like what we've had to eat, like especially like slavery in like the South. That's how we have that food, period.
Yeah.
That's Southern food, period.
But I think it kind of goes to, and I don't know if you all were here earlier, we were talking about how people just assume certain words mean certain things when soul food is not within context, means something totally different than food that is nourishing your soul, or food, because they're thinking, oh, soul is this passionate word. So what food, whatever they're doing, and that shows that they don't understand what soul food means. When they at least should doing this exhibit. Like it really reminds me of like that could be like a satire type of episode.
Oh my gosh, I'm telling you.
It's like I don't watch The Office a lot, but I could see that happening in an Office episode.
Mindy Kaling type of show.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Mindy Kaling type of activism. So yeah, so I've just had that kind of.
Sorry.
That's okay. I've just had that kind of like weird tension. I'm like, who do I bring this up to? Like, we have the president of that board of that organization is Black, and they do help organize a lot of things. But I feel like I honestly, I don't even know who organizes these shows. I think they're just picking themes out of a hat and like using a power word, but like I wish there was a better way and maybe a more sensitive way, and maybe it doesn't need to be sensitive. Nice.
Oh.
I love it. I love the set, bedroom set.
The hair dryer was real. That was actually.
I just got this haircut. That's so funny. Calling me a bad haircut.
Who did that?
What?
Someone
I
in the
don't know.
chat did that?
No. I'm just saying, please don't call me out for this bad
Oh.
haircut.
I was gonna say, even though like the leader of it is Black, when you were kind of describing it as liberal, that kind of clicked for me on why it would be placed like that, or worded in a way that is just like, okay, you don't know what soul food is at all, but you describing it as liberal made perfect sense. I was like, yep, nope, liberals.
Okay, good.
Makes sense.
I feel like that it gives me a lot more confidence to kind of address it with them. They have kind of like an open forum kind of thing, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to tell them like that you're doing the whitewashing cultural appropriation thing. Like, how do I tell them that I've identified it in them and that they should think more? I don't know.
I think it depends how long you want to be in that space, because people will start to get real weird and kind of like ice you out or make you, feel weird about it when you're very much justified in what you're trying to say. And that's very much like the culture of stuff like that, is like kind of trying to make everyone feel included instead of allowing people to feel the little uncomfortable feelings when they're not included in everything, So yeah, that could be hard. I definitely feel like even if you want to bring it to higher people, are there other peers that you could at least talk about it with?
I have a pretty good connection with like the community that we're in. Our community is mostly white people and Hispanics. I don't identify as either. I'm Mexican, so by my relationship to here is being Latinx, so I try to approach them from a place that's more understanding of like maybe they just don't have the immersion in like progressive politics as progressive I would like them to be. When you go somewhere like to Chicago, which is pretty close by, like we're probably the closest city to Chicago that's like has like a major art community. They don't have this problem, and I think it's just like, even if I do bring it up to them, the gallery, like the small art non-for-profit industrial thing, it's just like you have a show every month, you got to have art on the wall, and like I don't know, it's like trampling over people. I feel like it maybe is moving too fast, or maybe I don't know, maybe they just shouldn't try to have like maybe they should stick to the art, like not try to do progressive politics.
Yeah, I think in that situation, I think honestly, now that you put it like that, knowing that you're closer to somewhere where they could reference that is not having this issue, maybe they would be open to it. Maybe they haven't gotten any like, pushback or any kind of like other critical thought about it. Oh, so Brittany, what happened was where AM is, their organization has this thing where they're trying to say, oh, what is soul food for everyone, basically.
Should I read the description? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Should I read the description?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I'm not going to read it too in depth because I don't want people to like go searching this. You know what? I guess at this point it doesn't really matter.
Don't dox yourself.
These lives don't stay up.
Okay, yeah, that's true.
No clipping. Please chat. Don't clip. So again, the show is called Soul Food. And I'm reading it from like their poster. an exhibition responding to the idea that food that is eaten for your soul to survive. From modest ingredients evolved a complex, hearty, and delicious cuisine. Soul food does more than fuel our bodies. It is evocative of memories, has a rich history, and can have political, economic, and social implications. So that last sentence is something that I brought up to someone who works there.
Mhm.
Political, economic, and social implications. They wouldn't have said that. They
Unless
would have
you
just
said it.
said, what is that? I'm sorry?
So wait,
They wouldn't have added that unless you said it.
Yes,
so
exactly.
is this like something like a entity that you like work with or something?
I'm close to them. I
Okay.
think I feel like I'm never listened to. I feel like I can just talk for hours and hours about like
Mhm.
different critiques I have, and it's like, okay, well, we'll
So
think
they
about
want to look pretty, but they're not about like any
Yep.
change or any like thought
When your
provoking.
soul food is green bean casserole.
Hey, green bean casserole be hitting for me. I don't know about you.
And I think it's what, like, similar to like code switching or imposter syndrome, when people like these words were for marginalized groups, and now you'll have like a random white man being like, yeah, at my tech job I'm dealing with imposter syndrome, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be there. And it's because he didn't go to an Ivy League, he went to a public university. And it's like this is not, these terms are not for you.
So
And
like
I
the
feel
co-opting of like
it's
the
like they're kind of though I feel like they're I guess they're co-opting soul food, but they're trying to make it even more like palatable.
Rebrand?
Huh?
Like rebrand it?
Yeah, it's like rebranding. They're just doing too much to make people feel comfortable. But also, like you said, I think they're rushing too. Like it's kind of like,
Okay.
oh, we hurry up. We need something to put together. Soul food, something that we can just say.
It's like a black square.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The black squarification. I guess.
Because it's just like, come on. And even when we're saying, oh, soul food is something that has like enriched our souls.
Like all of those things are true. Like
yeah,
technically all of that is true probably for someone in the African American community. But I think like finding a term that's like analogous, I guess, like I don't know. It's
what they could have just done, and maybe, and if this is something you wanted to say, they could have just highlighted the importance of soul food and even like the history of it or something, instead of trying to make it like an inclusive activity. I think
it's okay for things to be for certain groups. I think that's where people who aren't marginalized don't get. Because it's not necessarily gatekeeping, but it's cultural preservation, basically.
Yeah. And a lot of what was in there as the art was there was a good amount this year, especially of like Afro Latinx people who were showing, different types of food that like even me as like a Latino person, I was like, oh great, I didn't even know that was like considered a soul food. So it does have some complexities from the art that people are submitting, but the theme of the show itself just opens itself to too much. Like there was lots of fast food worship, there was lots of like commodity kind of foods, like I don't know, just like snacks and candies, and like like is that really soul food, or is that just like I feel like a lot of people also just didn't engage with the idea of like what having a soul is, which has been, I started reading W.E. Du Bois on the souls of Black folk as a recommendation by one of my college professors. And I was like, okay, so like soul is just much more complex, like in the African American community. What are you showing on your screen? Then
soul food. This is soul food. Like greens and like chicken, biscuits, and like cornbread, yams, macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
The basics.
And the thing is, they don't leave room for nuance because like regionally, like again with the Twitter, Somebody tweet. I mean, I had to retweet it because I related. Because I remember a couple years back, there's a couple of people in who's like in the CAU, like the Clark Atlanta University, Spelman, Morehouse area. A lot of people over there don't know what boudin is, and I'm like, that's really specific because boudin is really just another rice dish.
Yeah.
But somebody tweeted, you'll go to college and somebody will tell you they don't know what that is, and it's wild.
I don't even know what to describe that as because so many cultures make rice. I don't know if the rice you're talking about is actually seeped in a type of broth.
I've never made it myself. To me, it's just tangy because there's your bell pepper, your celery, your onions and stuff, but it also has ground beef in it and stuff. Sometimes it has pork. Sometimes it could come chicken. Sometimes it could come with cheese. It just depends. But I don't know. And then they encase it in a sausage. That's the most typical way. But I personally like boudin balls. I don't really like it encased in the sausage or the pork skin, I guess.
Yeah. I think with that organization also getting good submissions, they're not going to be able to decipher what is, because the only time we really get that pushback is in grade school, school where you get grades. Hey, your submission is going to get an A, yours is going to get a C. And I feel like we don't do that no more. I feel like in that organization, they're going to get submissions where I'm like, okay, that's good. These Hispanic, Afro, Latinos submitting food. That's okay, this is a good submission, even though our prompt is kind of questionable. This is a good submission. And then you're going to have people submitting, like you said, candy, and they should be getting, no, this is some type of no. But then nobody does that. It's just a free-for-all, and all of it is supposed to be looked at as relevant when not all of it is.
People don't make rubrics or metrics no more.
Yeah,
yeah. No, yeah, I definitely get that. Part of working for or part of being around these small organizations, just they need to get up or are up on the wall. It's part of getting grant money and how many shows you can have. How do you show your impact? Well, we show the most artists, they show the most artists, so it's very interesting to just see them, I guess, making show themes or prompts that are for the greatest common denominator, and I think trampling over the word soul food is a way to get people in to participate. So I really like how you said, Teanna, as an activity that everyone, culture as an activity, that I think summarizes it a good argument. Maybe not everyone needs to participate in this one. Maybe we don't have the range to participate in that one as an organization, I guess. Yeah, well, I mean, that was all I had to say. Love these live streams. I do need to go. Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Have a great night.
Actually, when looking at the comments, Janie Bean says it's always a free-for-all when it comes to Black American culture, and I mean that's probably one of the best ways to put it. And why they're so careless and just throwing everything together.
It's kind of hard to fathom because I keep trying to make a good example for it. The only thing I could think of right now, for example, say if you saw someone in a type of wedding gown that people in India would wear for weddings, and you can distinctly see that is a part of a different culture that is not your own. I feel like with Black American culture, there are a variety of things that people don't even see as distinctive as we see other cultures having something distinctive. So because people can't look at certain things that Black people do and see it as just as distinctive as saying wedding attire in India, people don't think of it as the same. So if I'm wearing a wig or if I'm wearing certain jewelry or whatever, people don't see that as coming from a very specific culture. They just see it as, oh, if she could do it, I could do it. And it's no, respect that thing that I did.
It's like Bad Baby, essentially. Is like a very prime example of that. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think at that point it's just, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say what, so let me say what I think. I would say in terms of like preserving like Black American culture, I mean, I'm not like, I feel like it's very hard for us to actively participate in that because I feel like not a lot of us are in situations to do so unless we're online. Like for me, I don't run into a lot of people that are Black fishing. I mean, I really don't. So it's hard for me to be like, well, how do I handle telling this person that what they're doing is cultural insensitive or whatever? I only see it online, and that's really hard to combat online because you end up just feeding into the engagement for that person.
Oh man, I lost my point. I lost my point. Brittany, do you have anything?
Well, no. So Sophia said that you could wear a sari. I know I could possibly wear a sari depending on the situation, but that's why maybe I'm trying to make it more specific as to a wedding, because I feel like maybe there are certain wedding attire that people wear that is seen as very specific. Like you don't wear this unless the context, when in other ways people will just put that on for fun because they don't care about the context. They don't care about the sacredness of certain things. So that's just why I use that example. So it's kind of like if I was to wear it and then participate in an action where it doesn't make sense to do that, it's like that's how I see sometimes people using a variety of Black American things where it's like people don't even understand, like with this context and how they're using it, it does not even make sense to do what they're doing. So I think that's kind of the point. It's not just, oh, people are doing things that Black Americans would do, but you also see it with people who just don't even understand where it came from, the right time and place to do it, and all that type of stuff.
So like cultural insensitivity almost, and bringing it back to Black culture, it's like Black culture has been co-opted and taken in so many forms for as long as Black people have been in America, whether it be what music we make, what food we cook, just any sort of media output, any sort of output Black culture puts into this country, it literally just doesn't get taken. And so I guess for a lot of people, it might feel like gatekeeping because they're like, oh, well, we have this, and this. And I mean, it's been for so long that like some people are just okay with it and don't feel comfortable. Like, oh, well, you shouldn't gatekeep because like, oh, what about this? Like hair, like this far off example or this weird hypothetical. And I feel like that's very annoying.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been struggling with gatekeeping lately because like I've been wanting to like make some TikToks, but I don't want to have to explain what hair products I'm using or something.
No, you cannot use the hair products.
Don't even say it. Honestly, that's perfectly fine. Keep the hair products to yourself, honestly. Because I think people do too much on social media where they do explain certain things when you don't understand that that audience is very vast, which is also too why even in some of my videos, when somebody doesn't really understand something, I don't explain it unless it's necessary. Because I'm like, if you get it, you get it. If you don't, let's move on. Because not everybody needs to have it broken down for them.
I'm sorry. I live with other people, so they keep talking to me. I keep making faces.
It's okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What did y'all say?
Wait, there was something that I wanted to say that someone had said in the chat, but I forgot. Oh, wait, I was going to say too. So with Black voices, there's also like a nuance because I feel like, again, even with this culture preservation, there will be people who have different opinions on what to preserve, what not to preserve, what people can and can't do. Because, you know, I'll get comments like that where I'll be like, you know, I don't feel comfortable saying this because I'm not a part of that community. And then someone a part of the community will be like, no, it's fine, you can say it. And it's like, I'm not gonna take your approval. Okay, I don't know you, and you are not like thousands of other people giving me a consensus. Someone was like, oh, well, I'm mentally ill, so you can say delusional however you want. And I was like, I think they were like, I'm schizophrenic. I was like,
oh,
okay, you're one person, and allegedly, I don't even know you. You like, I have no proof of that, so I'm not gonna just take your okay.
That's true too. Yeah, trying to keep in mind that like we're not a monolith, or that these groups aren't a monolith. So I don't know.
That's why it's like nobody could really give you an approval, which is also why also better to keep certain things off of social media. Like, for example, say I am invited to an Indian wedding and they're like, we want you to wear this, right? And I get the approval from them, but then I feel like I shouldn't post that on social media, because then if you post it on social media, now everybody's like, well, why are you in that? Did you get this approval? Did you get? And if I don't do my due diligence to put the whole backstory, then I put myself up for a dragging that I could have had not if I had not just posted it.
True.
A lot of us would not even be able to give our opinion if we just never posted it.
That makes sense.
Someone said maybe she should hang out with Harry and Meghan's 25% Black kids. Wait, in regards to.
Oh my
God.
God.
Is funny. What? Why would it? Sorry, that's why Harriet was carrying around a gun. What are y'all talking about?
I'm sorry to be funny, bro.
I feel like, well, fear. I don't think cultural approval is something that could happen. It could only happen in private, and it won't. Even if it happens in private, it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just y'all business, because there's no way, like, because even if say like 50% or 75% of Black people says something was okay, who's to say that's the right 75%? What if we're in the minority saying it's not okay, and the majority is saying it's okay, but we are actually in the right? So that's why I'm like, I don't think it exists. It's
okay.
Just...
I have a thought that just went through my mind, and stay with me. So, okay. Do you pronounce your name Tanmi?
Yeah. Usually it's pronounced Tanmi, but yeah,
okay,
Tanmi.
No, I want to
technically the right way to say it.
Tammy or Tanmi.
Yeah, it's like Tanmi.
Okay. You didn't watch the Grammys, but they did a tribute to the 50th anniversary of like the inception of hip hop, basically. And for some reason, whenever I watch Black people perform, sometimes in my mind, I don't know why it just goes there. It's just like, you're tap dancing, like you're a monkey. Like, why does my brain do that? Because it just kept going on and on, and I'm like, these white people is not getting it.
Yeah, it was kind of embarrassing. I couldn't even watch the videos on, like, I didn't see it in real time, but I couldn't even watch the videos of it.
See, I watched it in real time because somebody had sent a link in the Discord. So I like was watching it on my phone, and I was enjoying it for me, but I was just like, I know this has to feel like in an outer body experience, I guess, explanation. I just think it feels weird because sometimes that's how I feel sometimes, because I guess I don't know if I would consider myself a former dancer, because I would like to still do it on the side or something, but we gonna have to circle back to that. But I just be like, do I want to perform anymore? Because it's like, it's kind of like when your auntie or somebody in your family be like, do that little dance. It's really weird. I don't know.
Well, okay, I think it just means that we should just be performing with people who get it, like, you know. And as soon as you step out of that, it could feel weird. Because I'm like, not all embarrassment is good, you know? Some of the embarrassment you talking about is like you kind of overthinking it.
Yes, exactly.
But no.
I'm aware, but I can't help it.
Little Baby doing the freestyle song at the Grammys that didn't make any sense to me because it was kind of jarring because people like him often don't perform at the Grammys, nor do they acknowledge people like him. So it was kind of like, and even in his documentary, there was a conversation about should he go to the Grammys or not. He wanted to go, but his team was saying you shouldn't go because I think they didn't recognize his album or whatever. And he was like, "Oh no, like I want to go or whatever, or I should perform or something." And it was just like, I know the white people in the audience be like, "Oh, they trying to make their statement."
But in the same breath, I feel the same way when like the white people be having their little moment, and I'm just like, wow, two worlds.
But do I not be paying attention? Because I feel like in a lot of these shows, the only moment white people have is just either a white performer or a white person winning an award. I feel like they don't be trying to make statements. Like,
true. No, but when that lady, I guess she won Song of the Year.
Uh-huh.
I was just like, who is somebody call her Reba McEntire?
I don't know.
She was even surprised herself.
But that's how I feel like the internet works. Like we're in our own worlds. Like I would be very interested to see what it's like to be in a whole nother world on social media. And I feel like you get brought back to reality when you look at the Hot 100. Because like if you look at the Billboard Hot 100, you know, you will have those extremely popular mainstream artists at the top that are Black or like not white. But then you'll be looking at others, like you'll be seeing like, okay, Beyonce's number 8, but this number 9 song I've never heard of in my life. And then you'll recognize number 12, but then 13, 14, you're like, who are these people? And it's like they're extremely popular just somewhere else.
I'll be wondering, like, where does this demographic reside? Like, where do y'all be at? Like, because I try to keep my stuff open, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to see what I don't want to see at the same time.
Don't protect your energy.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, like.
I was going to say, it's probably from TikTok. That's where a lot of, like, newer artists seem to get a lot of traction. Like, TikTok or maybe Instagram. I'm not on social media like that. I'm sorry.
Look, I love that for you.
Yeah, we're gonna get like you soon because we have to stop. This was a reality check, honestly, like a real reality check. Like delete the Twitter app. Don't even delete the Twitter app. Delete your entire account because you can delete it for up to 30 days. Just reactivate it in like at least 7 days. Activate it for like 2 days, go back, and deactivate it for like 4. So you gradually do more and more.
It's weird because like I have TikTok, but I realize I don't be on TikTok that much, like as other people. Like probably in the beginning when I first got it, I used to like to scroll, but I don't really. Sometimes I'll get on there, I'm like, dang, I haven't seen this person in a while. Like, dang.
I delete the app and I re-download it because I use some of my saved. I will like stuff, and I'm like, okay, I need to remember what was said if I need to use it in any other way. So that's usually when I take breaks from any app, really.
Dang, I need to get like that, but I don't know. I feel like I'm never in these spaces where the apps just feel overwhelming for me. But maybe that's just because that's like what I'm used to, what I do. Technically, that's literally what my degree was.
You know what? No, you will feel it once you take a long break and you come back. You're gonna feel it.
Yeah, because I do be wondering, like, I didn't grow up like this because I wasn't allowed to have like a MySpace and stuff like that. So I kind of came into social media late-ish, kind of, sort of, just because I wasn't allowed. And I was definitely a reader. And I keep saying, let me read these books. Let me read these 4 books that I bought, but I haven't touched them. So I do need to switch up my scenery and switch up my, I guess, routine to like see what that really feels like. But I think it's hard to break the habit that you're used to.
Yeah, because every time I take a break and come back, I'm just kind of disgusted with what's on my timeline.
See, I use it for shits and giggles because I can never be serious. So everything be funny and I be enjoying it because I'm like, oh, this is like me reading the newspaper. which is actually very sad. Like, that's very pathetic. But
is there anything new in the news that you read in the newspaper? Do you read the comics? Do they have good comics now?
They still have comics, but like a lot of news like publications don't really send newspapers anymore, and then you can barely find them like at stores when they used to have them in those little things that you could get them from. Like, I don't know, but yeah, me and my dad, we used to love reading the comics. I love Curtis, Peanuts, Pearls Before Swine. What's another comic?
Garfield?
Yeah, Garfield. Is it McNamara or is it McNamara? Something like that. I don't know. I used to read them all the time. But yeah.
Also, people are talking about Madonna's face at the Grammys. I guess.
I don't even know what to say. Like, what do we say?
We know why. We know why. But yeah, I feel like we should wrap it up soon. It's about to get on 4 hours.
I want to get a cup of ice from Starbucks.
And then I'm like, your background is getting dark. Mine I feel like kind of stayed the same because this area of my room is dark.
I was gonna say the sun's starting to go down.
Hate that this because my mic was on mute when I did the room reveal. So I have a comforter on my window because it was cold.
Okay, because no, that was looking like a blanket. I was like, that looks like a blanket.
Look, let me
the blinds.
Let's get real for a second.
This is very much what is the example? It's honestly, it gives a TikTok background. Like, there are certain people who have that background on TikTok, and it kind of gives like high school kind of.
I'm dead. I mean, this is my childhood room.
So I'm like, it very much gives childhood.
Wait, how does it give TikTok?
Because there's some people on TikTok that be their room. I don't know how to describe it.
I'm dead. But my curtains look very regular. Like, they're gray. Like, my room is gray. Unfortunately, I went through the gray phase and then like just haven't changed. Even though I would like to change my room, but it's like I don't want to pay for stuff if I plan to move out. Like, why would I buy stuff for this place?
And then have to move with it. Yeah, no.
Exactly.
I would say the only reason why you would decorate your room is if you just want a change of environment.
Oh, I definitely want a change of environment, but the way my parents are set up, I can't even really hang stuff. Like,
what?
That's why. That's
in an apartment complex that can't hang.
Yes, it's giving dungeon. It's really annoying. People saying I'm rich because I got this dryer. Y'all, this dryer is like probably older than me, and I'm in my mid-20s.
And also, depending on if the hair salon is going out of business, you could just take it. All you gotta do is know somebody, and you could get yourself a hair dryer.
No, for real though.
I've seen a couple of those in people's houses.
I'm dead. The wig that was on that stool, that's a synthetic wig. Like, we're broke.
And that's another thing too. Like, I don't know. I don't care, but I'm like, people just, I don't know. I think like people don't really understand. I don't know how to say it. Because either some people are broke and in denial about it, so then they expect more from other people. But I don't think people understand, like, deeply understand. Like, people just are really not buying anything. There's only a certain section of people on the internet that be acting like they have a lot of stuff, and the rest of us just be watching. Mm-hmm. That's not everybody.
It's called rent. It's called temporary.
No, literally, my parents just cut the cord like this week. So they like watching stuff on a little TV with an old antenna on that. Until they figure out what they want to do.
Just like AM said, like, it's getting to the point where we keep having to cut things back. Like, this month I'm gonna try to get a wax because I haven't gotten one in so long, and I'm really sitting here like, do I really spend this money? And I just went to Ulta the other day and I picked up 2 makeup products. I walked around that store. I'm like, let me just put this.
No, the way I just finessed some stuff
Right.
from Sephora because I had some points. I was like, "Ooh, I'm getting all this stuff for free because I ain't paying for it."
Putting stuff back, just like my own parent in my head, like, put that back. Got food at home. I've been thinking about getting kava for a minute.
I want to try kava. Everybody keeps saying it's good, and y'all are influencing.
No, it's one of those places where the only reason why I keep going back is because I have to keep trying different things to figure out what I like. But every time I go back, I get intimidated, and then I ordered the last thing that I had that was just not special. But I'm like, I know there's a lot of potential here. I just need to figure it out. So
plus, it's safe. Like, it's the safe route.
All I know is that they have a really good white sauce. I don't know the name of it. And they have a really good Caesar sauce at the end. Those is good. Like,
that
and
sounds
good. I
it
have
sounds good.
A combination of what stuff I put in it.
Dang, I really want to try kava.
Yeah, I'll try coming back for the next live stream.
Yeah, okay. Let's sign up to rock.
Look. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Dang, I wanted to keep talking because I'm a talker.
We already did an hour.
I know.
You want to hear an hour ago?
I'm a talker, but it's whatever. Look, y'all know I'm gonna be for the next live. Y'all know.
Yeah, I'll be back. All right, bye.
Bye.